And then he goes into the, well, my name is Cuban Pete. I'm the king of the rumba beat. When I play my maracas, I go chick, chicky, boom, chick, chicky, boom. Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Cheerio.
Cheerio. And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Hi-yo.
Hi-yo.
Yeah.
Hey-yo.
Hey-yo.
Cheerio. We are going to continue our road trip today.
On the road again.
The most time-honored tradition of all, the road trip. Oh, the places you'll go.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
No.
Road trip.
We're going to be doing Kansas and Kentucky today.
You know, we're making our way through this great nation.
Making our way in the world today. Sorry.
Nice. A few weeks ago, I was like, man, by the time we get to Kentucky, I'll be like, that'll be forever. And like, here we are.
Yeah, just like that. Now, if we had actually driven to states by alphabetical, that would require not only to get out of our car occasionally.
Yeah.
We'd have to rent cars. We'd have to fly and rent cars to go to like across the country a lot of times. This one, these are close together. This is as close as it gets in this thing. I think.
I guess Indiana and Iowa were pretty close.
Indiana and Iowa was pretty close. But we go on to Kansas, where I'm looking at this list. I haven't seen very many movies on this, and there's not very many in general, but a lot of that has to deal with Superman.
And corn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In fact, that's all there is there. Superman and corn. I think there might be a college and a football team, but that's it.
Yeah.
I actually have never been to Kansas, so all I have are stereotypes and preconceived notions.
Yeah. I mean, if you showed a random person a picture of Nebraska and a picture of Kansas, they probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference, right? I don't even know if you could show it to a Nebraska or Kansas resident and they would be able to tell the difference.
Yeah, I don't know. I was born in Kansas City.
Were you really?
Missouri.
Ah.
But there is a Kansas City, Kansas.
Right on the other side of the river.
It's really dumb. That's really, really dumb. Like, the postal workers there in that region, their job is twice as hard. They have to look twice as long at every address to make sure that mail didn't come to the wrong Kansas City.
Well, they could always go by zip code.
Shut up.
Unless it's like Newman and Seinfeld. We're like, let me tell you a little secret about zip code. They don't mean anything.
Actually, they do, though. You can actually put a zip code without the city and state, and it'll get to the right place.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, just about any Superman movie, Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, the old Richard Donner Supermans. I mean, the man's from Kansas, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he lands in Kansas, and he's brought up by Ma and Pa Kent.
And Smallville, right?
And Smallville, yeah. And then sometimes his dad gets carried away by a tornado, and he tells him, "Don't do anything.
Let me die.
The world does not need to know of your powers just to save me."
Sometimes he just keels over on the farm.
That's good.
But
that
he
happens
pretty
too.
much always dies.
Yeah, always.
I guess that's the last new way to do Superman.
Yeah.
Like the next time they reboot Superman, it'll be Ma Kent that dies, and Pa will live.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only new wrinkle they can bring.
But Ma Kent will be the one who instills all the values and everything.
Yeah, and also says, "Let this tornado kill me. Don't do
That's
anything."
right. That's right. It'll be Diane Lane again. She'll be like 70 and still look like she's 25.
I'm trying to figure out who played Pa Kent in the original Superman.
Old guy number 3.
Oh, it was actually somebody who
Glenn Ford.
Yeah, it was a name actor. I was about to say.
Who? Interesting. Glenn Ford.
Oh, he was in westerns and stuff, right?
Yeah, I believe he was. But he was in a lot of stuff.
Ooh.
My Son is Guilty, Convicted Woman, Men Without Souls.
I feel as though we're on the cusp of a rabbit hole here.
We are.
Yeah, he's been in a ton of stuff. Wow. But Kevin Costner, I guess, has probably become the most recognizable Pa Kent.
Yeah.
Because he's in it, I guess, the most.
What about the Dukes of Hazzard guy from the Smallville show?
Oh, is he? That's Bo Duke, isn't it? Or one of the Dukes?
Yeah, one of them. I don't give a fuck.
Did you ever see Smallville?
I watched a couple episodes of Smallville. Here's the deal. And this is a perfect place for us to insert Patton Oswalt rant about the Star Wars prequels and not want to see what's in Darth Vader's balls or whatever.
Yes.
Because I'm sick of this. We did it with Smallville a long time ago. Now we've done it with Gotham. We're on the fourth fucking season of Gotham. I don't watch this show, by the way.
You don't watch it?
And now there's a new show, Krypton. Let's go back before the time of the hero, and tell us why. I really don't give a shit. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I'm sick of it.
I don't
Stop
think
it.
I've watched any of these like origin things like
I haven't.
Smallville or Gotham or
No.
anything. I hear good things about
Smallville
Gotham.
went on for like 10 seasons.
It did.
Yeah.
Smallville was on for forever. And then one of the chicks on Smallville started a cult with a prostitution ring.
Oh,
You know what I'm talking
yes,
about.
I do. Yes,
It was Alison Mack?
yes.
Because Kristen Krug had to come out and say, because she was part of it at first,
Yeah.
but she didn't know about any of the sex trafficking.
Right.
oh,
it's
this
the
is for real?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, this is
yeah.
a crazy
Oh, I had
ass
no
story.
idea.
The actress from Smallville, the blonde, you probably can picture her face even if you never watched Smallville.
Yeah.
And she was sort of like because there was kind of like a Betty and Veronica thing with Superman's
Smallville?
character.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And Kristen Krug was Lana Lang or whatever,
Yeah.
and then Alison Mack was this other character on the show for forever. And then like a few months ago it came out, for the last several years she's been like the second in command of a sex cult.
As
yeah.
one does.
Yeah, and she's like the PR person or something like that.
Oh my God! Well, she's out of the country now, and they're expecting her to be arrested any day and extradited back
It's
to
so
the US.
crazy.
It's insane.
But she has such an innocent IMDb picture.
She does. She does, but so does Jeffrey Dahmer.
But you know what? She's from. Yeah, exactly. It's true. It's true. But you know what? She's from Germany. Fucking Germans.
Oh man.
Allison Mack.
People
Bring in their German prostitution onto our borders.
There's two types of people I hate in the world: those who are intolerant to other cultures and the Dutch.
That's right. Speaking of Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
Yeah, or prostitution, whatever. However, we can get to Dances with Wolves.
I think Costner's probably the better route. I don't remember any prostitution. out
No,
of it.
there wasn't.
So how much of Dances with Wolves is supposed to take place in Kansas? All of it?
So he gets wounded in Tennessee. I was reminded of the story because it's been a while since I've seen this. Costner gets wounded fighting for the Union, right, in Tennessee.
I think so.
And he like charges the Confederates to try to draw their fire because he thinks he's going to die, and that's how he becomes a hero. He gets sent off to Kansas, like a fort in Kansas, to man that's where the crazy guy that kills himself exiles him, essentially. Says, go out to this outpost, the furthest one we have, and he goes from Kansas. I think he ends up in South Dakota, but it's a fictional fort that he goes to.
Well, and I think most of the movie is Kansas because he's at that fort for most of it and going off to visit.
The Sioux?
Is it the Sioux?
Yeah.
I didn't remember which tribe it was. But then they do move, like because he falls in love with Stands with a Fist. That's the girl's name, right?
Yeah,
Stands with a
Mary
Fist?
McDonald? Is it
Mary McDonald, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the tribe packs up and moves.
Oh, yeah.
I think a couple different times.
Yeah.
Because he finds buffalo, and so they pack up and move and hunt the buffalo, and I think they make 2 or 3 different like community camps throughout. So they might end up in South Dakota or something. God, I love this movie. Every time I see it, I stop and watch a few minutes. The music kills me. Like the score is incredible. This is one of those rare scores where there's like Jurassic Park, where there's 3 or 4 different themes that are all iconic. And I saw this great interview a couple weeks ago with Costner on the Graham Norton show, British Jay Leno, where he was telling this story about, the friends that he had in life that wanted a little something extra from him on their break into the business. He had become a star, and he had friends that were like, "Hey, I got an idea for a movie," and he was telling a specific story about one friend who had written something and showed it to Costner, and Costner didn't like it. And the friend got really mad at him. Like, you don't want to help me, blah, 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 blah. And Costner was like, just write something good. And the guy went away, and he didn't hear from him for forever. And he came back like a year later and said, "Hey, I wrote this. What do you think?" And it was Dances with Wolves.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now it is. Now I am looking at the IMDb, and this looked like it was filmed mostly in South Dakota. Like in it would be a South Dakota movie more than anything on here. It has one thing in Kansas, and it's like a fort.
Okay,
So,
the good thing we spent 10 minutes talking about it.
I mean,
we can come back to
I
it
don't
in South
wanna-
Dakota.
Yeah, I mean either we need to cut this and put it in South Dakota, or we just say sorry, South Dakota.
Well, there's only going to be like 2 other movies to talk about for South Dakota.
We'll talk about it more. I'll watch Dances with Wolves again just so we can talk about Dances with Wolves.
I actually would like to watch Dance. When's the most recent time that you saw it? Is it pretty
Week and a
recent?
half ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. See, I feel like that's a movie that, even though it's super fucking long, like that's a movie that I'd like to revisit again because it affected me a lot when I saw it. When I
It
guess I was
still
a kid.
gets me when those motherfuckers shoot the wolf.
Yeah.
Damn, it pisses me. Like I'm getting angry right now just thinking about it. God, and it has to be there. Like I realize from like Costner's perspective as the filmmaker why he has to put. But God, it kills me every time. I know it's coming. It's just like Old Yeller.
Did he win Best Director?
You did.
He did.
Wow.
Best Picture, and this was another year where an actor is like, I'm gonna make a movie and it's gonna be awesome and it's gonna rob Martin Scorsese of an Oscar because he did that in 1980 with Robert Redford and Ordinary People, and so then 10 years later, exactly 10 years later, Costner makes his magnum opus of and it beats Goodfellas.
Can you imagine like him at the post Oscars party, just like trolling Martin Scorsese, just walking behind him with his Oscar?
Oh yeah. It would be nice to see. It would be cool to look at some like some past winners and who they beat and everything. Like I know that Hilary Swank beat Annette Bening twice in Oscar Oscar races, and it would be interesting because Annette Bening's never won.
Yeah.
And Hilary Swank's got 2. And I like Hilary Swank, but she ain't Annette Bening.
Yeah.
And both times it just happens that Swank came out with that one great performance that, and it's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then there's you have the Capote movies. Capote and Infamous both came out very close to each other. Capote has Philip Seymour Hoffman playing him, and Infamous has Toby Jones playing him. I haven't seen Infamous still. I did like Capote quite a bit. Once again, another great Philip Seymour Hoffman performance. Ho hum.
Yeah. Just another day at work.
Yeah, exactly.
He got nominated for this too, didn't he?
Capote,
Philip
He
Seymour-
won.
He
for
won,
this.
right?
Yeah. But yeah, both of them are really good. And by proxy, we sort of just have to talk about In Cold Blood as well. I have not seen this or read the book.
I have not seen In Cold Blood either.
Yeah.
Or read it.
Oh, really? I've read the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about.
Is it as awesome as it's been portrayed?
Well, it's interesting because there's so much of Capote's influence on the story itself because he ended up falling in love or developing a relationship with the killer or accused killer. No, I think he admitted to doing it. Yeah, because he got executed and Capote was at the execution. This guy kills a family of 4 in, I think it's Wichita, Kansas, some small town in Kansas. And Capote's coverage of it, because he became like fascinated with it, became In Cold Blood. And it's hard for me to separate after seeing Capote the movie how much he inserted himself into In Cold Blood, because the story itself is compelling. How this happened, the story of the murderer himself, but then when you get the extra layer of Capote's relationship with the killer, like it's just this crazy meta stuff that's hard to parse out, but it's really, really interesting. And like you said, the Toby Jones performance in Infamous may be fantastic. It may be even better than Philip Seymour Hoffman, but he was awesome in it.
Yeah. And then he had he wrote Breakfast at Tiffany's too. Yeah, that was another big one that he wrote.
Yep.
And I'm not a Capote expert. That's where it ends. That's all I know is In Cold Blood and Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah.
I know he wrote more stuff, and I know he also was known mostly for. Didn't he do like a lot of stage performances and stuff where he would come out and he would talk almost Garrison Keillor like or whatever?
Well, yeah, because he's such a compelling figure. Like he had that weird voice. I can't do a Capote voice.
Right.
It was that high pitched, effeminate voice that characterized his whole being.
Yeah,
and he was very erudite and everything, and very smart and very funny. So yeah, he's just
He wasn't erudite.
interesting.
He was divergent.
That's right. That's right.
You imagine the next book in that series is going to be Erudite?
Yes.
Anyway.
Now here's a few that I haven't seen. The Big Kahuna, I remember that coming out. Never seen.
Help me out. Who's this?
That's that Owen Wilson movie, I think, isn't it? Big Kahuna.
Oh yeah, no, this is Danny DeVito, Kevin Spacey, and Peter Fasinelli.
Oh,
and so they're at a convention in Kansas, similar to Cedar Rapids.
Okay,
being in a convention, and they're Spacey and DeVito are trying to land this guy that is in control of the whole industry, the Big Kahuna, and so they end up sending Peter Fasinelli to go make inroads with him, basically. And it's almost like a play. Spacey's fantastic in this. DeVito's fantastic.
It probably started as one.
Yeah, it may have.
That was the case, because that's back in the day where they seemed, and Spacey was in a lot of these where they used to be like a play first, and then they made the movie. I'm thinking of The Big Bounce, by the way, for that Owen Wilson movie.
Oh yeah.
But no, I never saw this. Then here's a sort of classic 80s horror movie, Critters. I've never seen that.
Really?
I've never seen it.
I saw it, but God, I was probably 11. I don't remember. I mean, however old I was, I don't remember.
Critters, Tremors, and there was one more.
Isn't Critters like a discount Gremlins?
Yes.
Okay. That's
it's
what I
little
thought.
aliens that come down to Earth.
There was Ghoulies.
Ghoulies. That was the other one. Yeah. And they wreak havoc and kill a bunch of people, and they have to find a way to eradicate them. This
Pretty
is
much
big,
everything's a discount Gremlins, though, if you think about it.
I don't know. Yeah, this is like a cross between Tremors and Gremlins, basically. Tremlins.
Yeah.
Gremers.
See, this is where I wish Jonathan was here, because then he would be able to be like, oh man, Critters? Let me talk about that. He would be all over it. He'd give us the whole thing, and we're like, damn, my Critters knowledge is lacking. Then there's Dark Places. This is a Charlize Theron movie.
This one I haven't seen.
Never seen it.
Listen to the cast in this, though. It's a crazy cast that I didn't realize. Charlize Theron, Christina Hendricks, Nicholas Hoult, Corey Stahl, Drea Di Matteo, and that's basically it. But it's enough to where, I thought this would be on my radar. I had never heard of this movie.
This is another murder movie.
Yeah.
If you want to kill somebody,
Kansas.
you go to Kansas. There's a lot of murdery stuff going on there.
Murder, Superman, and corn.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much what it is. Then there's The Day After. That's another thing about Kansas.
You've seen this one.
The Day After. Is this the nuclear Holocaust movie?
Yeah, Jason Robards. That's another thing. If you ever have an apocalyptic movie, it's always like, well, where's the most desolate place that we can go where there's we can film and there's not buildings or anything, We'll go to Kansas, it seems like, because that doesn't even The Stand end up there at some point?
No, they're in Boulder.
They're in Boulder?
Yeah.
They probably went through Kansas on the way.
I think they did.
Yeah, and then there's, what was that, was it Jericho, that TV show? Didn't it go to Kansas?
Yeah, that was Jericho, Kansas.
Yeah, was it Kansas?
Oh, it was a criminally underseen show.
I watched it for a while, and then I got real tired of it. And I heard that it got really good.
Yeah.
But I liked it at first, and then I was like, where's this
Didn't they make that hip hop song about that show where they go, oh, skeet, 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 skeet?
They did. That's the untold true story. It's like everybody was wondering what happened to Skeet Ulrich, and then it came down to Lil Jon telling us telling us where it was.
It's weird, and I guess we should get back to The Day After eventually. But when I was went on vacation to the beach, and there's this renaissance of early 2000 hip hop that the kids are listening to now, including Lil Jon and the East Side Boys.
Really?
There was a balcony that was facing the beach. Family location and everything. There was this group of teenagers that were like, "Oh, ski, motherfucker!" I'm like, "Oh, it's 10 in the morning, and they're out there fucking yelling all these."
Wow,
crazy
that's
shit.
terrible.
Anyway, I haven't seen The Day After.
Oh, really?
So if you guys seen it,
They
go ahead and
showed
talk
this shit in school.
Oh yeah,
I was young and impressionable, and this gave me nightmares. They definitely showed this to me too young.
Yeah,
and I don't think kids of today. You could watch this movie today and you would probably laugh at the parts that made me cry with fear. But there was a very maybe I overestimated it in 1984 or whatever, but there was a very palpable sense that I might actually die from a nuclear bomb.
Well, yeah.
And so when this movie, if I'm remembering this wrong, you tell me, but I'm pretty sure there's like a mushroom cloud extravaganza at the end of this movie. And I'm just like, God, it scarred me.
There's a mushroom cloud laying motherfucker.
Motherfucker.
I'd be curious to watch it again today because I'm sure.
Well, this was on network TV, wasn't it?
I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't have played in my home if it was. I'm sure my mom wouldn't have. My mom probably called and yelled at the school for showing it to me. But I think the school did it, for our safety. Because, this is, I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah, duck and cover.
Duck and cover.
Was that in the South Park movie or just an episode? Where it's
no, that's in Iron Giant.
Well, no, the duck and cover song is, but the South Park did
a duck and cover, which is it's based on a real thing. Like,
well, yeah, that's part of the
and it was in South Park because it's an episode with the volcano,
right? Yeah,
and it shows the guy under the desk and the lava harmlessly goes over the desk.
Did you guys ever do the tornado drills?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where you file out into the hallway, and you get down on your knees, and you put your head down between your knees, and you put your arms over your head. Yeah. It's like the most useless thing ever.
Well, yeah, and even as a kid, you're like, how does this prevent us from being blown away?
Oh, now we're in a wind tunnel. Excellent.
Yeah.
So duck and cover was pretty much the same thing. Yeah. Like, nobody who promoted duck and cover thought it was going to help. They were just trying to give you peace. It was like security theater. It's like the TSA.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Duck and cover. You're fried a nanosecond after the thing hits, but duck and cover anyway.
Yeah,
you might make it out okay.
Yeah, like give the there's a fraction of a possibility of it actually working, then you'll be glad you did it. The gunfight at the OK Corral, which I've never seen. I know that's a Wyatt Earp movie.
Interesting.
It's Burt Lancaster plays Wyatt Earp, and you have Kirk Douglas playing Doc Holliday.
That's pretty amazing.
So I guess Dodge City was in Kansas, right?
Dodge City is, and that's where Wyatt Earp was from. I know in Tombstone, they have the gunfight of the OK Corral right outside of Tombstone, Arizona. So I don't know exactly if this was shot there or if it was placed there. I remember loving this movie.
Oh, yeah?
If you throw any of those things on, like Rio Bravo I watched recently, I watched the original True Grit fairly recently. You throw any of these like old Westerns on that are well regarded, I'm kind of in my happy place.
Yeah.
It's just cozy to me. It's nice to see. I don't know if it's comforting because it's traditional gender roles, men acting like men and stuff like that. But there's always like some sort of precocious woman in there that's like basically fucking with the lawman and he ends up falling in love with her. So I don't know. I'm down with it.
Yeah.
In the best Wyatt Earp movie, Wyatt Earp, it shows a more epic view of his life from like even in his youth.
Oh, yeah?
But it like shows like, because he's not a lawman by trade. He's just in this town. Some drunk does something dangerous, and he like hits him over the head and takes him out like that because Costner don't give a shit or Wyatt Earp don't give a shit. And so then the sheriff deputizes him on the spot. I need men like you. And then I think he goes from there to Dodge City, and part of the movie takes place in Dodge City, and he brings on one of his brothers as a deputy. And then I'm pretty sure there's a guy from Tombstone that shows up and says, "We need a lawman like you." I think the Wyatt Earp shootout at the OK Corral takes place in Tombstone in history.
Okay.
Is what I'm saying.
And then Kurt Russell shows up and he's like, "And hell's coming with me."
Yeah.
So you're talking about the much superior Wyatt Earp movie.
Yes.
Okay.
This
Yes.
is a heavy Kevin Costner episode.
It really is. Accidentally.
Yeah.
I guess Costner must like Kansas.
Yeah. Then there's the Ice Harvest, which I don't remember. I think I did see this because it came out in 2005. I cannot remember a thing about it. I know John Cusack, Billy Bob Thornton.
Yep.
And it's one of these weird movies they dump in a Thanksgiving holiday or whatever. and I saw it. I don't remember a goddamn thing about it. Yeah.
Oh, it's silly. Do you remember this one?
No. Like this is, I feel like I've never heard of this movie before in my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Harold Ramis directed it.
Is it a comedy?
Yeah, it's dark comedy. It's like action comedy. It's pretty funny. I love Cusack, man. Like I love the stuff that, doesn't get a whole lot of play, like 1408 and Identity and The Ice Harvest and things like this.
The Raven.
Didn't like The Raven. There's a limit. But yeah, no, it was fun. It's a lot of fun. There's like this. it's violent and it's profane and it's Connie Nielsen, I think, is in this too. And it's just silly and it's almost like a really heavily discounted version of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah.
So
That's a good way to sell it, though.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend it just because I think it's just madcap enough, and Harold Ramis probably had something to do with it. That it's enjoyable. But
I have seen The Ice Storm.
Yeah, a little bit different. Although both basically revolve around ice being a culprit.
Yeah. Then there's a movie just plain old called Kansas. I never saw it. It's Matt Dillon and Andrew McCarthy.
Yeah, Matt Dillon plays a hobo.
Yeah,
who convinces Andrew McCarthy to do some sort of like robbery.
Why do I feel like that's half of Matt Dillon's filmography?
He's got a solid hobo.
Matt Dillon plays a hobo,
and you know what? It may be the only one, but I think
he's playing I mean, Drugstore Cowboy might as well be a hobo in that movie, so.
Yeah.
I think that fits.
Yeah. Did anybody here see Kansas? I haven't seen Kansas.
Anybody here seen?
It's got a 5.4 on the IMDb. It's not. It's a worthless. They should have never done the work on that. That should have never happened. Leap of Faith. I haven't seen this either.
I have already gone off about this movie on the podcast, so I won't go at length. Great movie.
Yeah,
I think you would enjoy it. I really do. It dabbles a little bit. This is sort of what you get with Steve Martin taking on the idea of religion / snake oil salesman. Town that needs rain. Liam Neeson is trying to safeguard the town. I think he's like the sheriff or the mayor or some shit. Philip Seymour Hoffman is in this. It's just great. I love it. And I think you would like it too.
Is it Lucas Haas that's the kid in this?
Lucas Haas is in this, yeah. And he's got some leg troubles.
Oh, yeah.
And wants to believe that Steve Martin's traveling preacher can heal him. And enough people suspect that Steve Martin is a sham. They're worried about Lucas Haas's feelings and blah, 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 blah.
And then Lucas Haas goes and plays Super Mario 3 in front of a whole bunch of people. Is that what happens?
Yes, and says E.T. phone home.
E.T. phone home, something like that. You the wizard.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't Leap of Faith has a little more heft to it than a regular Steve Martin
it has some things to say.
Yeah.
But it is a comedy first and foremost. And maybe it's my own upbringing, being a preacher's kid, having been to several revivals and tent revivals, and maybe that taps into something for me that makes me enjoy this movie more. I don't know.
Did you ever go to one with a faith healer?
No. That thankfully was outside the realm of my family's theology.
Oh, okay.
I certainly saw some of that on TV. I've been to a few services where they did that kind of stuff, but not like a revival service, and not like anything where we would never have gone if we knew that kind of thing was going to happen going in. We were not like a speaking in tongues kind of religion.
Yeah, I think I ended up somehow at a few, maybe it was tent revivals with faith healers, and I remember thinking like it was like was it Fletch 2 where he goes to, it's Arlie Ermy that does the faith healing, isn't it?
Man.
I don't know if you guys remember Fletch 2.
I remember things about it, but I don't remember that.
But yeah, I've seen things like, putting your hands on devils, demons out and all that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That is the kind of person Steve Martin is playing, for sure. But you see behind the scenes that they have people watching and listening as people are filing in, and they are basically using technology and information to select who they're going to heal.
Right.
And it's all about mind manipulation, at least at first.
And then you get a chance for him to showcase his crazy leap of faith style, faith healer, I'm out here, Steve Martin type of thing.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's great.
Now we're going to run into 2 Joseph Gordon-Levitt movies, and they
crazy?
have very similar, LOO names. So you have The Lookout, which is a great movie. Scott Frank wrote and directed that movie, and Scott Frank is best known for writing Get Shorty, Out of Sight, Minority Report, stuff like that. And then he did this. This is his best known directorial movie. He did The Walk Among the Tombstones as well.
This is also one of the only movies Joseph Gordon-Levitt has made without Ryan Johnson.
It's true. He's got 5 movies and 4 are done by Ryan Johnson. I haven't seen this in forever, but man, I did love this movie.
Yeah, I
It
saw
is
it
great.
about a year and a half ago, and it's great. He's basically I guess, would you call his character dim-witted?
Yeah, something.
He gets in an accident at the beginning, and he has a traumatic brain injury.
Okay, and so he's like basically an overnight security guy at a bank and gets manipulated by his quote-unquote friends who want to rob the bank. Going from there, I really loved it. Really liked it a lot. So much so that I looked up afterwards, who made this movie?
Yeah.
I saw Scott Frank. I was not surprised.
You know what his character's name is in this movie? Chris Pratt.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm sure somebody's told Chris Pratt that.
I'm sure.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. It's great. I love it when stuff like that happens, though. Like, there's a character in the original Troll movie named Harry Potter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's played by the guy who played Atreyu in Neverending Story.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Harry Potter.
That was a deep cut.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Well, and then one of those 5 movies that Ryan Johnson and Joseph Gordon-Levitt did is Looper.
Yeah.
Yes.
And both movies had Jeff Daniels in them, too.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's crazy.
Curious.
Yeah.
Weird.
Right?
Looper's great.
Yeah.
I like me some high concept sci-fi. The idea of assassins who, at the end of their career, get sent back in time to be killed by themselves is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And aside from a little uncanny valley on Joseph Gordon-Levitt's face, I really love this movie.
I was going to ask about that. That really disturbs me about this movie is Joseph Gordon-Levitt playing Bruce Willis.
Oh, yeah.
And he's playing Pulp Fiction style Bruce Willis, like the stoic, like, that just bugs me. He's great and the movie's great, but it just bugs me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. Yeah, I could take issue with some of the time travel stuff. I think in the Sins video we did with especially the part where they're cutting off that guy's fingers and nose and whatnot while he's trying to run away, and I don't understand how any of that works. But Paul Dano's in this. Dano. Jeff Daniels is. I realized somewhere around the time I was watching that Steve Jobs movie he made, he may be one of the best actors we have, and he was just on a late night talk show the other night, and Jim Carrey popped on and surprised him and did like a mini Dumb and Dumber reunion. But Jim Carrey did this whole thing where he was like, this is the most versatile actor working in Hollywood today. And if you think about it, he can do stuff like Dumb and Dumber, but he can do the extreme opposite end of that, like Newsroom, where he's smarter than everyone.
Well, yeah, like in '94, he was in Speed and Dumb and Dumber. Like he's a smart cop in that, and then he's in Dumb and Dumber.
And in this movie, he's kind of like an unhinged crime boss.
He's hilarious.
He's hilarious. Yeah. He's just everybody brings something really cool to their role. The guy that plays the henchman, I don't remember his name. Even he's electric in this movie. It's great. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I wish Ryan Johnson didn't hate me.
But he was cool. And then, well, what about this? No, I'm cool. But what about this?
That was odd. And it shows the sort of the danger, I guess, of this the Sins video aspect of us and everything, is to do something of a person that you wildly respect and want to see all his movies and everything, and then go and do this where you're just tearing it apart for, funds, for giggles. And then that person comes out and says how much they hate you. And there's nothing worse than that.
He inspired Twitter, though.
He did.
He inspired your Twitter.
That's the reason why Cinemasins has a Twitter, for sure.
Yeah, I almost hate him for that.
Yeah.
There are days. There are definitely days.
Then there's Mad Money.
Now, is this the Katie Holmes one?
Yes.
That takes place in Kansas?
Mm-hmm. Kansas City.
This is a surprisingly watchable bad movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I had never seen it.
I'm shocked you've seen it.
It came on, I don't know, it was probably 6 months ago, and I was like, well, I'd never seen this. Katie Holmes is pretty.
Yeah.
Diane Wiest is pretty. Diane Wiest is in that, right?
Diane Keaton.
Shit. There goes my joke. Queen Latifah's pretty.
Yeah.
It's basically just a harmless female janitorial Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
And they work at this facility, and some of the money has to be disposed of because it's old and wrinkly and whatnot, and they devise a scheme to funnel some of that out and get rich. My favorite scene is when the husband of Diane Keaton's character finds out what they're doing, finds the money, and loses his shit. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, not a good movie. I didn't have a bad time watching it, and I don't really know why that is. But Diane Keaton's always fun, especially when it's not a serious role.
Yeah.
And Queen Latifah's always fun. Maybe that's it. I don't really know. I don't know why I watched it, but I did. I also watched that George Clooney one that has a money in the title.
Oh, Money Monster?
That I thought was this when you said Mad Money.
Yeah, Money Monster.
Yeah, I've seen that movie too.
That movie sucked.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
I don't know how it sucked, but it sucked.
It was one of those that came out in early May.
Yep.
It tried to avoid, like, probably whatever Marvel movie was.
Well, and it also
didn't
has
try
this.
to avoid.
It's like the ethos of that movie is like, we're so sick of the rich 1% having all the money and screwing us over, and the poor people, regular Joes, can't afford anything. And I'm like, George Clooney's the guy that's going to shove this message down my throat? Come on.
Yep.
Come on.
And Julia Roberts.
Yeah. Get over yourself. Let somebody who's poor make that movie, you dick.
And here's a movie that I probably should have seen, but I haven't. Catherine Bigelow's Near Dark.
Mm-hmm.
It's a vampire movie.
Yeah, it is.
And it's got Bill Paxton in it.
That's right.
Wow. When the
Yeah.
fuck did this come out?
1987.
Oh, that's why I don't know. Okay.
So yeah, I haven't. Have you seen this?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. See, this is another one Jonathan needs to be in. I know he's seen Near Dark. Know for a fact.
Vampire movie set in Kansas, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got me intrigued.
Yeah, I actually want to see this just because Catherine Bigelow was a part of it, and this is one of her first movies. I think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she's got a pretty good batting average.
She does.
She does.
Yeah. Rolling Kansas. I don't know what this movie is.
So this was Thomas Hayden Church. He directed this.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And it's about like trying to get into the marijuana farms in Kansas.
Sweet. I
Yeah.
hear those are huge.
God, I actually did see this movie, and it's so, I don't know if pedantic is the right word, but it's just so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to be subversive, and it's trying to be like funny in a sideways type of way, which is strange, in like a half baked type of way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just not funny at all.
That's too bad.
We were begged and pleaded by someone from Kansas,
Yeah.
not to bring up Wizard of Oz. But sorry,
It was an awesome email.
yeah, it was.
And I'm sure people in Kansas are just as tired of hearing about Wizard of Oz as we are about hearing
Well,
about
look,
Music
and
Row.
it's understandable that when every movie seems to do like some "we're not in Kansas anymore" thing, and I
Yeah.
can't remember what movie recently. Black Panther may have done it, I think.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Where somebody said we're not in Kansas anymore, and it's like just. I mean, you can go back to Swingers, where Jon Favreau is like, "We're not in Kansas anymore," and
There's
realize
a
how.
supercut on YouTube of all the movies and TV shows that have done it.
Oh, really?
And it's fucking long.
Oh, I bet it is. But it is. I know that's annoying and everything, but it is. Aside from that line that gets overused, I mean, you have to talk about the legacy of Kansas here with
Sure.
the Wizard of Oz and Oz and Great and Powerful to a lesser extent.
Mm-hmm.
But Wizard of Oz. I mean, that's as classic as it gets. It's a classic, simple story, really.
I love this movie.
Yeah.
I love this movie. I've watched it probably 30 times over the years, and I think I saw it fairly recently too. And it's so good.
When you were a little kid, like I wish I could have. This is another movie I wish I could watch for the first time again.
Yeah.
Because when it goes from black and white to color, when you get to Oz, it's like magical.
Oh yeah.
When you're really little, like I've seen it so many times now, I don't think it affects me the same way. But God, I used to love this movie when I was a kid.
It has everything. It's like stuff. It
Yeah,
has everything.
yeah.
Little people, flying monkeys.
Roman J's, real Esquire.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, it's got the Munchkin, and it's got the Journey, and it's got all the ancillary characters coming together. It's got how'd you like it if we picked your apples, and the Wicked Witch, and like I don't know, man. And Judy Garland is just this supernova of like happiness all the way through. She's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
Contrary to what her life was probably like off.
I wonder if she was using drugs during this period.
I don't know. I wasn't trying to imply that. I just was.
Wasn't it almost? I don't know. See, we're speculating, but I think it was something. It might have been some stuff due to this movie. Like I think they either this movie or following movies. They wanted her to lose weight and all this other type of stuff, and it was like, and she looked fine.
Yeah.
But it's. I don't don't know what happened there. But
we've also got one of the most iconic songs in the history of movies, in Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Oh yeah,
and you can throw me any version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and I'm probably going to get chills. Like the Rufus Wainwright version is fantastic. The I don't know if it was Jake Shimabukuro, the ukulele guy.
Yeah. Did you actually just say his name?
He is a ukulele guy. I don't know if it's his version. I don't think it's his version that is so widely circulated.
There's a Hawaiian guy who does a cross of What a Wonderful World and Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And his name is like 70 syllables.
Right.
And they're all O's and I's. And I don't even want to try to pronounce it, but that's my favorite version.
Oh, it's so great.
And it gives me chills.
I mean, and we send this, and it was fun because it's such an innocent movie, and you know, just you go through it and like making fun of this movie is in itself fun because it's just so innocent. It came out 80 years ago, and you know, so it's really good.
It's Israel Kamakawiwo.
Yeah, you see what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. So Roman J. Israel was in this.
I apologize for not being able to. But it's really good.
Yeah. And you know, there's a lot of course, there's a lot of legends and rumors about this movie that aren't true. They've been disproven and everything. Mm-hmm. Someone hanged themselves during the filming. You can see it in the background, and like there's been a lot of conspiracy stuff about it. Like, well, they've wiped it out of the new versions or whatever. You can't see it anymore. It's like no, it didn't happen. Sorry. And there's more than enough proof that there's no way that could have happened.
Have you ever done the Dark Side of the Moon walk?
I have.
I have
you?
too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's your experience like?
It is uncanny in about 5 spots.
Mm-hmm. That's what I've heard.
And then everything else has nothing to do with it. The heartbeat when they're going to look down, they're listening to Tin Man's heart is pretty cool. The fact that it changes from black and white to color at the second side of the album is pretty cool. And there's like a couple other things in there, but it's
Now, I am pretty certain that neither of us watched this while we were high.
Right.
So that may have a difference.
That's true. Like if I'd done it high, maybe that's a different situation.
There are 50 points of awesomeness.
Yeah.
I had gotten such an argument with my friends when we were doing this because we had a CD player and then we had the VHS player playing The Wizard of Oz. And they were like, started it when the lion roars. And they're like, no, not when the lion roars, when the MGM comes up. And like, no, you started when the credits roll.
Yeah, and it was the third lion roar, I believe.
And if you could go back to that moment, I bet you'd smack yourself in the face.
Yeah.
I'd smack all of us in the face.
Yeah. And I think there's also a thing when she's balancing on the fence and she's walking, and I can't remember exactly what in Dark Side of the Moon is going on.
I remember reading there was a moment with Glenda and the Wicked Witch, the dead one or something, where the lyric in...
Oh, us and them.
Oh, I thought it was, who knows which is which?
Oh,
that's
right. That's right. That's what it is.
Again, I just read that in an article. I never actually took the time to do it. I'm both impressed and disappointed in you guys that you both did that.
What's the disappointment?
I said I was impressed. That was the first word that I said.
But no,
I was a teenager and we didn't have the internet, so I didn't have anything
All
else
right,
to
there
do.
you go. That's fine.
But yeah, that lyric is in us and them, and yeah, that makes sense because when it says who knows which is which, it does cut back and forth between the two.
I would love for something like that to be true. Maybe it is. We just haven't actually discovered it yet.
Well, there's and who knows how. And there's I think there's people have discovered, quote unquote, several others that you can do this with. With different albums and different movies combinations.
I feel like it's a believable story that somewhere in the 70s, a band was high on drugs, watching a classic movie, and made a spontaneous album to go along with what they were watching. I find that a believable story.
Sure. No, a spontaneous album. Not Dark Side of the Moon.
No, I'm not this specific instance. No, but just that kind of thing could happen.
Well, and then, and if Pink Floyd had been like, hey, let's make an album that you can play with Wizard of Oz, it would play the entire movie, I would think, instead of stopping halfway through it. And I think there would be way more uncanny things that would happen through it. But, yeah, who knows? How did that ever get found out? That's great. I feel like somebody was listening to the album and was like, this kind of reminds me of Wizard of Oz. And then they started playing it and they're like, oh, wait a minute. And they kept backing it up, oh yeah, you started the third lion roar. And
It's
then
probably one of those impossible things. Like, you know that story you tell walking through the booth where you heard a sound from two different places at the exact same time? What's that story?
That was the Psycho music.
The Psycho
Oh,
music.
yeah.
It could have been that. Somebody might have had Dark Side of the Moon on. Somebody else in the house was watching Wizard of Oz, and it lined up right to where they had one of those coincidental moments. And then went, I'm going to investigate this further.
Mm-hmm. And then Oz the Great and Powerful is the sort of the pseudo. It's a prequel.
It's a prequel, right? Is there any value to this movie? I didn't watch it. But you
Mila
guys,
Kunis is pretty.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. And Michelle Williams is pretty.
Now, you can watch this movie start to finish, and you will swear up and down Tim Burton made it, and he didn't.
Yeah, it's Sam Raimi.
Oh, yeah.
But it feels in every way like the kind of films Tim Burton has taken to churning out.
Is it good?
I didn't enjoy it.
No, I didn't like it. I thought it was it's hard to watch this movie because everything's so fake looking in it and everything, especially the little CGI character that's in there or whatever that they interact with a whole bunch. I do think it's kind of interesting to have this sort of like, you figure out the conflict before all the stuff in Wizard of Oz happens and everything. But it's too big and like garish and it's not a Sam Raimi movie. You expect something from a Sam Raimi movie, and it doesn't. He doesn't have it.
Imagine if he'd have just gone full Raimi.
Yeah,
and gone dark.
You never go full Raimi.
I mean, because this is almost a kids movie, the way that it's played, and in terms of like the content tone. But if he'd gone like Evil Dead, with like the origin story of how this guy became the wizard, that could have been badass.
But you know what? I mean, it's one of those things. That movie made a lot of money.
I'm sure it did.
Who are we to say? If he had made it like that, it probably wouldn't have made that.
No, you're right.
You know, we're terrible businessmen. Looking at the other movies that were made in Kansas, American Pop, I've never seen that. Never heard of it.
American
Birdman
Pop.
of Alcatraz, I've seen that. It's actually pretty good.
How's that a Kansas movie?
I don't know.
He's in prison, like in the prison
Alcatraz.
is in. It's not Alcatraz. It's a prison in.
I thought
Kansas.
that movie was about Alcatraz.
No, he's in Leavenworth, in Kansas.
He's not in Alcatraz. Leavenworth is in Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually more surprising to me than the fact that he's not in Alcatraz in that movie. Leavenworth is like that go-to prison to shout out for a reference, right? But you don't think of that as being someplace like Kansas. You think of that as being in Gary, Indiana.
No, man, you want that in the middle of nowhere. Even if you do escape, there's nowhere to
go. Bunker Hill, never seen it. City Heat, Dodge City, Elmer Gantry, a horror movie called Mother's Day.
Yeah.
The Muppets Wizard of Oz. Have you seen this?
Yes.
Okay.
It was a TV movie. This is the one that's got Ashanti in it, or whoever.
Yeah. Is it a good Muppets movie?
It's probably the least good one.
Yeah.
They were in this phase. This was before Disney, I think, had bought them, or at least before they decided to throw any money at them. And so it's just kind of everything's a little bit half-assed, and it's almost like one of those epic movie, date movie kind of spoofs where they're just kind of trying to make a bunch of Wizard of Oz references, like recreate moments with waka waka, and you'll laugh. I didn't enjoy it very much, and I fucking love the Muppets.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then there's another one called My Own Love Song. I've never heard of that one. Paper Moon, great movie.
So that's Ryan and Tatum O'Neal, right?
Yeah, that's Peter Bogdanovich, and they're basically, I don't know if they call them grifters. I guess they're grifters. The dad's a grifter, and then his daughter starts learning how to do it. There's a great scene in there though where she goes in and pays for something in a like a convenience store of some sort. And she pays with a $10 bill, gets change back for the 10, and then says, and she goes, he's like, you ripped me off. And it's like, and the shopkeeper's like, no, I didn't, young lady. You gave me a $10 bill. And it's like, I gave you a 20 because my dad gave me that 20 and it has a message on it written straight to me or whatever. And earlier on, he paid with a $20 bill that had that message on it and everything. And then she goes through the drawer and like Ryan O'Neal comes in and it's like, is there something wrong here? He's like, yeah, she took my money. And he's like, she looks at the register and sees this $20 bill that has the message on it. And then, so she gives her change back for the 20 now. And then Ryan O'Neal does some sort of gymnastics where it's like, why don't you give me this? And then I'll give you that. And then you blah, blah. And then like he ends up getting another like $40 off of her or whatever. He walks out and the shopkeeper's like sitting there counting the money and she's like, that's not right.
Nice. You said grifters and it made me think of Matchstick Men.
Oh yeah,
and that made me think of you talking about The Weatherman recently.
Oh yeah.
And I watched that between the last podcast and this one, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it's a good
the funniest thing about it, there is bow and arrow because his daughter says she wants to learn archery. And then later on, he finds out she actually just wants to shoot animals with it. He says, that's not archery, that's bow hunting. But the funniest thing about the movie is like every 6 or 7 minutes, somebody throws a drink at him.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like this running gag.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like resigned to that happening.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
But I would definitely recommend Paper Moon. That movie's really, really good. And I believe, Tatum O'Neal was at the time and may still be, I'm not sure, the youngest actress to win an Academy Award.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk too that Bogdanovich should have won it too because apparently he had to like go do a whole bunch of takes to get the perfect whatever. Of course, that's probably also Bogdanovich saying that himself. So
I made that performance
exactly. But
that's my Bogdanovich.
Yeah, exactly. Sounds good.
No one will ever know
Yeah.
whether it is or not, but it's good.
Then there's Sarah Plain and Tall, which I remember reading. Never saw the movie.
Now,
Sarah Plain and Tall is a Newbery Award winner, I believe.
Yes.
My mom was really into the Sarah Plain and Tall stuff. They made several books, several movies. This was a thing. And it don't get no more wholesome than that. This is basically like Little House on the Prairie extended universe.
She's plain and tall.
Yeah.
She's plain and she's tall.
Yeah.
I don't remember a thing. I just know I watched any of the movies they made on this. I watched it.
Really? You watched the movies?
And my mom read all the books and showed us all the movies.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there were multiples.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, like in the next one, is she short and voluptuous?
It's Sarah barefoot and pregnant.
That's
right. Sarah naked in a fridge. I would read that one.
And then the cyborg years, of course.
Sarah took a dark turn.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Sarah terminated and
Sarah Connor played it.
That's right. There you go. And then finally there's Splendor in the Grass, which I've never seen. It's a Warren Beatty, Natalie Wood movie, I think.
Oh yeah, man. Natalie Wood in her heyday was one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my entire
That's
life.
right.
I went through a period, it was like Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, and I think I saw Splendor in the Grass too, because this is about like a sexual awakening in the revolution and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I went back and watched a lot of Natalie Wood movies, and
didn't he kill her?
So well, Robert Wagner is actually the charges are being brought back up about her going overboard, and Christopher Walken was on the boat and everything.
Jesus.
So yeah,
everyone's terrible.
Yep,
everyone.
Yeah. I'm not saying that Christopher Walken killed her.
He might know something,
but he was on the boat.
He was on the boat.
Yeah,
you're at the bow. I'm going to the stern.
Yeah.
Yeah, Natalie Wood, my favorite Natalie Wood is West Side Story.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that movie is long as balls.
It is.
And not as watchable as I remember it from my youth. Songs are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But she's just, I don't know how you can watch that movie and not fall in love with her.
Yeah. That's a spooky thing in the IMDb is like, died November 29th, 1981 at age 43. Drowning and other undetermined factors is what's on the IMDb. Natalie Wood, probably an all-timer as far as like, talented and gorgeous. And
yeah, she was good. Like she was super funny in her like later performances and everything. And then, more of like almost like an Audrey Hepburn type of character early on. Yeah, I loved her.
All right. Well, we can go on to Kentucky now.
Kentucky.
Kentucky,
Dicky.
that state north of us.
Yeah. I lived in Kentucky for about a total of 5 years or so in Louisville.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved the city of Louisville. It is unlike anything else. I'd compare it to Austin. I've never been to Portland, but apparently it's a lot like Portland too.
Yeah.
It's got a very huge art scene and a big like food and music scene, things like that.
It's a beautiful city.
It really is cool.
Yeah. The first one on here, Coal Miner's Daughter, great movie.
It is a great movie.
Yeah.
Especially if you like the old style country of Loretta Lynn, Patsy Cline, like all those guys. It's basically how she got her start, and she actually brought her husband along. She got married at like 15 and had a bunch of kids by the time she was 19. And then she had her career.
Yeah, there's Sissy Spacek in a great role here, and then Tommy Lee Jones. This was a wake up call for me because I thought Tommy Lee Jones's career started in like the late '80s, early '90s. Like I was
blown away.
No, the first time I saw him was Under Siege, and I was like, oh, okay, well he's new. JFK, I guess, was the first one I really saw him in, but I first remember knowing what his name was from Under Siege, and then of course The Fugitive comes along, but then like I was like, oh yeah, he definitely wasn't in anything before this. Coal Miner's Daughter, he's definitely in something well before that.
He was college roommates with Al Gore.
Yeah. Dreamer. What is that? Do you know what that is?
That is a horse movie with
Yes.
Dakota Fanning.
Oh, inspired by the true story Dreamer.
yes.
Is
Is it Jeff Daniels that's in that, or is it
it's
Dennis
Kurt
Quaid?
Russell.
By
Kurt
the
Russell.
recently declassified true story.
Yeah, it's Kurt Russell who's in it, and it came out in 2005, so that means I saw it.
Yeah.
Unless
like a
it's one of
farm
those
movie,
where
I
they're
think.
like 2005 and it came out late, but no, it came out in October of 2005. So I saw this. Don't remember a goddamn thing about
That's because there's too many fucking horse movies.
There are a lot
Yeah.
of
There's
horse
even a
movies.
zebra horse movie.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Well, we're about to get to that.
There's probably a
Is that
review.
set in Kentucky?
Yeah, they go to
damn
the
it.
If I can-
Kentucky Open.
If I can find the review of Dreamer, I'm going to have to read this out. If I saw it, I reviewed it.
Oh, that's right.
Elizabethtown, which is a movie that Cameron Crowe looked like. I mean, this is for me the beginning of the end of
Yep.
Cameron Crowe.
Yep.
Like, and maybe he hasn't reached his end, but nothing has been good. Starting with this movie.
I
No.
agree.
Do you like this movie?
No, I didn't. This is the one with Orlando Bloom and Kirsten Dunst. Yeah. I didn't enjoy this movie. No, which is sad because it's like the first one he made that I didn't. And there's a unique kind of disappointment there. It's just the same with Brad Bird and Tomorrowland. Like I have. Only with Brad Bird, I still have faith, and Cameron Crowe has gone on to make more Elizabethtown movies.
Yeah.
We Bought a Zoo is Elizabethtown with animals.
That's
I
true.
will say Elizabethtown has one of the most elegant, awesome posters I've ever seen too.
Oh,
I
yeah?
think I've got it. I think I've got it here because it's just so cool looking. I think it's just Orlando Bloom and Kirsten Dunst with like a wine or drinking a wine or something like that. And it just, and it looks cool, but the movie is not very good at all.
Yeah.
There's some good moments in here. So Elizabethtown is just a little bit south of Louisville, so I drove through it enough. But I thought the performances were good enough that that it was engaging all the way through. But it's not a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Fire Down Below. I think Fire Down Below had a premiere here in Nashville.
Oh, really?
I think it did. This is when I think Seagal was trying to be a country music singer. You remember that?
I do.
Yes.
I do.
Fire Down Below had a premiere at like Bell Forge or something like that. That's what I don't understand.
This is not the greatest location
No,
for anything.
no, it's not. I'll have to. I don't know if that's anywhere on the internet these days that I can figure that out. But Fire Down Below. I think I saw this, but I don't.
This is about the coal miners. So anything in Kentucky is either about coal miners or horses.
Yeah.
And
Makes
this is
sense.
one of those Seagal movies about the same thing with On Deadly Ground, where he gets his like EPA hat on and like wants to save the environment. I think he's an EPA enforcer or something in this movie.
Yeah.
And he finds the conditions that they're working in and all the toxic sludge that they're producing and like stands up for the man and probably like kills a bunch of people
Probably does.
Righteously.
righteously.
There are, now this is something that I brought up in Sin's videos before, but there are, it seems like anyway, but we only have 3 listed here, but there are a lot of like Bond type movies that end up in Kentucky for some reason.
Yeah.
Goldfinger's one of them because it's Fort Knox
Right.
and everything. Kingsman, the Secret Service comes to Kentucky because there's the whole Woodsboro, whatever, it's not Woodsboro. What's the Baptist church? Westboro that they're making fun of essentially in this. So they go to Kentucky for that, and then in the last one, the Golden Circle, they come to Kentucky because there's an American version of them that's operating a whiskey place, or whatever.
And they drink whiskey all day long, but no one gets drunk.
That's true. You develop a tolerance after a while.
It's like
God,
water.
man!
Yeah.
As soon as they got to Jeff Bridges in that movie, I had cameo fatigue. I was like, how many more people can you squeeze into this movie?
Well, the first movie's so manic and full of cameos. I mean, it was bound to happen, right? They were going to dial everything up to 11.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are parts of Golden Circle that I like, but it's way too much. It's just way too much.
Does it end with butt sex like the first one?
No. Although I think there's a mention,
indirect mention of if you save the world, you know what you get.
Yeah.
Can I ask why that's a thing in these movies?
The butt sex? I don't know. There's a lot of perverted stuff in there. Like he goes into like a music festival and meets a girl, and he's like, I got to take a wee. And she's like, oh, you can do that on me. I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
See, that kind of stuff makes sense in the Horrible Bosses movies when Jennifer Aniston's saying it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense in a movie like Kingsman to me.
Now the having butt sex.
Sodomy.
So Kentucky gets into some spy intrigue every once in a while because of, it was you would think it was always Fort Knox, but it's just the one time.
I really like Goldfinger.
Yeah.
The more I come across that movie, the more I'm convinced it's the best Bond movie. It was one of the first ones, right? Is it, if not the first one?
It's like the second or third one, I think.
It's so good.
Because Dr. No is
the first one?
I think the first one. But they started off with like a Casino Royale that wasn't Sean Connery, and it's not canon. I never saw the miniseries Hatfields and McCoys. I heard it was good, though.
Yeah,
really good.
Paxton's in this, right?
I think so, yeah.
I watched this. I want to say it wasn't very long. There were only a handful of parts.
4 or 5 or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I remember thinking it was well done, cinematic for something that was done on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And this came out before I had fully realized that all the really good shit was moving to TV. This was one of those flags. I was like, oh, hey, all right.
Yeah,
it's good. I don't really remember much about the Hatfield McCoys. It's just that it's like the most famous family rivalry ever.
Oh, yeah, because everybody started... So it started off with just like one killing and one suspected killing because one of the McCoys or Hatfields, I think it was the McCoys, had somebody murdered and they blamed the Hatfields. And I think it was later found out that there was no way that the Hatfields could have done this. But just because they thought it escalated this feud so much to where it doesn't matter how it started. It was
it was generations long, right?
Yeah.
Crazy. I hate my neighbors. Twitter will testify to that, but I've never hated anybody enough to actually have a feud with them.
Yes. I declare a feud.
Slap them across the face with a glove.
Okay, so Hush is another movie. I know I've seen this. I think Gwyneth Paltrow and Jessica Lange are in it, but
this is I don't know if it's a good movie, but it's a pretty fun movie.
Isn't it like there's a baby involved?
Yeah.
And it's Jonathan.
Yeah, that guy.
Is this a Hand That Rocks the Cradle type movie?
Kind of.
Yeah, where Jessica Lange is almost trying to take over the baby because she's so connected with her son. She wants to steal him away from her.
It's kind of like got a little psycho mom and son vibe there.
Yeah. Okay.
I watched it and didn't like it.
I swear I saw this, but at this point, I've probably seen 300 movies that I don't remember at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
And I know it came out during my first stint through movie theaters. It was my first ever theater. It came out, but I don't remember much about it.
It's a good Sunday afternoon movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One I haven't seen, but you apparently want to see this again. Next of Kin.
Oh man,
Patrick Swayze.
I love Next of Kin so much.
Yeah,
I could just based on your facial expression, I'm pretty sure I would hate this movie.
Oh, you think?
It sounds like one of those where you love it because it's terrible.
No. Well,
Like, I love Roadhouse.
It's been a minute since I've seen it, so it might be terrible, but I loved it. Okay, so Patrick Swayze is in this, but also it was 1989. Liam Neeson is his brother. Adam Baldwin, a lesser Baldwin, but still, he's one of the guys that kills.
Now, Adam Baldwin is not one of the Baldwins.
No, this is the Full Metal Jacket Adam Baldwin.
Yeah,
You're right.
that's he's not one of the regular Baldwins.
It's Adam Baldwin that's not a Baldwin brother. Yes.
Gotcha.
So he
Who was
plays
on
one of the
Angel.
bad guys. Yes. Helen Hunt is Patrick Swayze's girlfriend. Ben Stiller is in this movie. Bill Paxton is in this movie.
Wow.
There's one more. Ted Levine is in this too. It's where one of their. Okay, it's funny because Liam Neeson is trying to rekindle a blood feud. So Patrick Swayze's brother gets killed by this evil gang, and
Man,
Liam
I thought
Neeson,
it was a comedy up until now.
No. Liam Neeson wants to go to war with that family, and Patrick Swayze, when he goes back to Kentucky to bury his kid brother, he says, "No, we got to do this above board," and then shenanigans ensue, and it's awesome.
Shenanigans and
Shenanigans.
It's awesome.
I remember it coming out. It's one of those movies that I wasn't allowed to watch back in the day.
Yeah. It was R-rated, I think.
Yeah, 89. I was 14. No way.
Yeah. Racing Stripes. This was
there's your zebra movie.
Frankie Muniz zebra movie.
Hayden Panettiere's in this too.
Oh yeah.
There's two Panettiers in this movie.
Her sister or brother?
I think so. Yes.
Interesting.
I really hated this movie. I remember there being a part in there. They're putting a zebra in to race against horses in this. And the whole movie, the Frankie Muniz zebra is like, I ain't scared of shit. I'm gonna fucking run past these horses. It's gonna be fine. That's exactly my Frankie.
Wait,
Muniz.
is he voicing the zebra?
He is.
The zebra talks?
Yes.
Oh yeah. It's a thing.
Now I don't think I don't think the people know that he talks. It's not. Is it?
He doesn't talk to the people. Okay,
No,
that's different.
It's not like a Mr. Ed type thing. It's more like he's talking amongst other
Wow,
animals.
I thought this was like a kid-friendly, Seabiscuit with the zebra.
No, it's kid friendly, but
It's kid-friendly,
there's
but
a voice to it.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah, it's kid friendly. I'm just adding some fucks
Well,
to make it sound like it's
I
not.
hate it even more now, and I've never seen it.
But there's a scene in there that I'll never forget because Frankie Muniz, the zebra, has always been like, I'm gonna beat these horses. I know I can do it. I'm strong. Blah blah blah. And there's that thing that some horses have where they get into the starting gate. And they don't know exactly what to do once the gates open, or they get scared or something like that. They make his zebra character do that, where he's scared of the gate. And Dustin Hoffman's voicing some sort of I don't know, bee or something. I don't know the fuck what Dustin Hoffman is in this. But he comes over and he's like, yeah, everybody gets scared of the gate every once in a while and all blah, blah, blah. And they're like, you didn't give any explanation as to why they're scared of the gate. They've got human emotions and qualities all the way through this. I want to race these horses, and then you're scared of the fucking gate. I might be the only person that gets upset about that, but that pisses me off whenever they do this whole thing. Like, yeah, man, I'm a zebra. I'm going to race against horses. I'm scared of the fucking gate. And then Dustin Hoffman goes, oh yeah, everybody gets afraid of the gate every once in a while.
Aren't you glad you're not a golem?
Yeah, aren't you glad you're not a golem?
If you're trying to drive me away from this movie, you're succeeding.
Return of the Living Dead. This was not Romero.
No, this was like a parody or like a comedy, like a horror comedy. And what I remember of it, I don't think I've seen it, but it's got an amazing punk soundtrack.
Oh yeah?
I respect that you give props to movies that have killer soundtracks.
Oh yeah, this was like legendary. It had the Cramps, it had 45 Grave, the Flesh Eaters, the Damned, the Tall Boys, SSQ, Straw Dogs. Yeah, this was awesome.
You didn't name a single band I've ever heard of.
You've heard a Damned song, I'm sure, and you've heard a Cramps song, I'm sure.
Interestingly enough, this came out the same year as Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
And the guy who directed this is Dan O'Bannon, who's was a big part of the Alien franchise.
Oh yeah.
But I never saw this.
Yeah, I never saw it either.
And I'm sure there's people. You guys see Return of the Living Dead too. It's a great companion piece to Day of the Dead. Then there's Secretariat. We're talking to horses again.
Yeah.
Was that Tobey Maguire that was in that?
No, that's
Seabiscuit. but it sort of illustrates the problem.
Yeah.
Is there a beat left in a movie like this that we can't see coming?
You know what would be an interesting? I don't even know. I want to go down that road. There was a horse named Zendaya a few years ago in 2010, I think.
The horse that, was she in the Spider-Man Homecoming?
Oh yeah.
Yes, not Zendaya. She was a filly that was unbeaten the entire time that she was racing, and she came to the Breeders' Cup, and I think it was 2010. Came to the Breeders' Cup in Louisville at Churchill Downs, and it was electric. She was going to run, and she was going to win, and she was going to stop her career being undefeated. It's almost similar to Secretariat. And somehow I got tickets to the finish line at this race. I was right up against, my wife was with me, our Japanese, we had a bunch of Japanese people with us, and we were right on the finish line, and she came within a nose of winning. She lost.
Wow.
And I think that would make an interesting story.
Well, that's the only wrinkle left.
Yeah.
Although I'm pretty sure I saw a horse movie when I was a kid where the horse dies in the end. That's basically the same thing.
I guess she didn't die.
Yeah. But yeah, like Secretariat came out. It came out in 2010. It's got a 7.2 on the IMDb, which means I guess it's decent. But this came out like on the tail end of a lot of other like horse movies and everything. With Seabiscuit had already made its money, and you know, who knows, Racing Stripes didn't make any.
War Horse.
Yeah. I think this came War Horse came out after that. But yeah, I remember it coming out and I was like, God, it just seems too soon to come out with a Secretariat movie, even though the Seabiscuit movie had come out like years before. It still seems too soon.
What's funny to me is that growing up, you know, I knew enough to know about the Triple Crown and the Kentucky Derby, and if there was a horse that was going to challenge for the Triple Crown, I was paying attention enough as a kid to know whether he won or not. I actually remember there was a horse that was a Triple Crown contender when I was a kid. So this would have been the late 80s, called Sunday Silence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember during a brief period where my brother and I were forced to share a bed because I think there was construction going on in my bedroom or something. He farted under the bed, under the sheets, but I hadn't heard it. And we had been playing this game where we were farting loudly, trying to annoy each other with smelly farts. And then he farted and he goes, "That one I call Sunday Silence."
Oh, no.
God. It happened to be a Sunday when this happened.
Oh, wow.
He was punny beyond his years, I tell you. Sorry for that little detour. But I remember knowing that Secretariat was probably the most famous racehorse ever. And so when Seabiscuit, the movie, came out, I was like, why are they making Seabiscuit? I'd never heard of this horse till this movie came out, but I've heard of Secretariat.
Yeah.
They just waited too long to make a Secretariat movie. Somebody held the rights. Secretariat's great grand horse.
Yeah.
Something.
That's right. The estate of Secretariat.
Refused to sell the horse rights, the movie rights.
And then there's Stripes, apparently. Is it based in Kentucky or is
I always thought that when they opened the movie and Bill Murray's a cab driver and everything, that he is in New York. Apparently, they filmed it in Louisville, and I believe it's actually set in Louisville. So all that stuff with him and Harold Ramis, where they're just losers. He's got that gorgeous girlfriend, but he loses her, loses his job, all that stuff, apparently is all in Louisville, because he goes out on the bridge and stops his cab and throws his keys into the Ohio River, which is crazy because that's really cool. I love the Louisville downtown, and I love that movie.
Yeah. Son of bitch. Shit.
Oh God, there's so many great things in the movie. They wanted somebody else to play Harold Ramis's character, but Bill Murray wouldn't do it unless Harold Ramis was in it with him. And it's awesome. You should totally watch this movie.
Yeah. And then there's Trumbo, which I guess there's a prison.
Yeah, when he goes to prison, it's in Kentucky.
Okay, yeah. Trumbo is a decent movie. It's not great.
Is this the Cranston one?
Yeah, Cranston plays Trumbo. It's the guy who basically gets blacklisted through all the the McCarthyism and everything, and then there's like this whole hunt for communist sympathizers and stuff like that, which I think he is. I think he's
a member of the Communist Party.
He's like actually openly in. He wasn't wrongfully accused of it, but it was a time in our country where, if you were communist, you were the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And so he wrote a whole bunch of Academy Award nominated stuff. Spartacus was one of them.
Mm-hmm. Roman Holiday, right?
Roman Holiday. Yeah. And he won, I believe, for either one or both of those. And he had to have somebody else come up. He had to have a ghost written name for it. So that person would go up and accept the award as that person. And when everybody kind of knew that it was.
Interesting. Remember when Elaine dated a communist?
Yeah.
On Seinfeld? You got me blacklisted at Hop Sings?
I have got some interesting literature.
I love the side bit of Kramer discovering this discarded communist newsletter and getting all intrigued with the philosophy of it.
Other ones on here are Boy Meets Girl. I don't know what that one is. Fresh Horses, which I think is Ben Stiller is in that.
Oh, yeah?
I think he is.
Fresh horses as opposed to stale ones.
Yeah, right.
You don't want stale horse.
No.
You want fresh.
Fresh Horses has Molly Ringwald, Andrew McCarthy, Ben Stiller.
Good call.
Molly Hagan's in it. And Vigo.
It's Vigo.
I know I saw Fresh Horses.
Yeah.
I know I did. I don't know. I don't remember a damn thing.
Then there's Harlan County, USA, which is a really good documentary. I can't remember what's her name that did this? She's a really well-known, except for right now, Barbara Koppel who did that. And
Ted's mom.
Yeah, exactly. And but no, this is about a miners' strike, and it's really, really good.
Could they be the miners?
Yes. I would recommend this, though. In Country, which is that, I've seen that.
Yeah. Oh, who was in that?
It's Emily Lloyd, Bruce Willis, Joan Allen. Young girl whose father died in the Vietnam War becomes determined to find out more about him and his experience.
Never saw it.
So yeah, there's Kansas and Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank God we're done. I'm just kidding. For some reason, I like pretending like I hate Kentucky when I really have no basis for it.
Yeah.
Next week is going to be Louisiana and Maine, which would be very interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
I've been to Maine.
Oh.
I've never been to Louisiana.
Oh. You never been to Louisiana?
Never been to Louisiana.
I've never been to Maine.
Well, all right then. We'll trade stories.
Yeah.
All right, it'll be fun, yeah.
I've been to Louisiana, but I've not been to Maine.
Yeah. I would love to go to Maine.
I was very close to Maine once, but not inside the state.
I was driving in north of Maine, headed to Canada, and smacked on my windshield a moth the size of a hummingbird.
Really?
I swear to God, they got the biggest goddamn moths up there in North Maine. I've never seen anything like it.
That's good to know.
It was terrifying.
That's insane.
There were bugs everywhere because this is basically, I mean, Maine has civilization, but way northern tip Maine, you're about to cross the border, there's nothing up there. Like we were cautioned by the gas station guy to make sure we had enough gas because there wouldn't be any gas stations, and to keep an eye out for moose on the road.
Were you going to a cabin in the woods?
We were going to Prince Edward Island in Canada, but we decided to drive from Boston for some goddamn reason. I'll never do that again.
Yeah. All right. So we have been very deficient in answering questions in the past few weeks.
Yes.
And it's because, we get so wrapped up in all the other stuff and everything. We're going to do a lot of questions on this one.
That's right. Keep them coming, people.
We got about 30 minutes to do questions?
Sure, baby.
Question.
I got something to say. I want the truth.
I'm listening.
Rip them off,
Let's
man.
do some questions, baby.
Rip it.
Okay, what is your favorite movie led by your least favorite actor or actress? Now, I like this. Of course, we don't know these people, but we have personal preferences of who we like and who we dislike. And what do you think?
Yeah, so I wrote in my response, I decided to answer this question literally. Because the way it's phrased, they could just be asking, in general, actors you're not a big fan of, but it's still your favorite movie. For instance, Andie MacDowell in Groundhog Day. I don't really like her very much. I don't really hate her. I've never gone out of my way to avoid her movies, but I've never really liked her work very much. But she's in a bunch of movies I love. But that's not how I answer this question. I went literally. Actors like Kathy Griffin drives me crazy. Sorry, Kathy. Doesn't seem like you're a lovely person, but you may be. But I can't even watch the episodes of Seinfeld that she's on.
Oh,
It is grating,
She's really
isn't it?
annoying in those.
She drives me crazy constantly. And what she plays on Seinfeld is an exaggerated version of how I've always seen her.
Yeah.
Really, annoying is the comedy. Right? You know how like there are shows, there's like that awkward comedy, like The Office and whatnot, and cringe comedy, and it's hard for some people to watch. Her shtick was annoying comedy. It's like Carrot Top. Like, I can't take it. Anyway, she happens to have been in Muppets from Space, which is a movie that I like a lot. There you go. That's how I approach this question. Fine. Let's start with actors and actresses. And I wanted to be fair, so I found a man, too. I didn't want to just be sexist. Dane DeHaan.
Yeah.
Who has yet to really impress me in anything. And I was going to say Chronicle until I looked on IMDb and found out he has like a tiny role in Lincoln, which is a much better movie. So I'm going to go with Lincoln and Dane DeHaan.
Yeah.
You know, Kathy Griffin was in 4 Rooms, too, very briefly.
Well, she was in Pulp Fiction.
She was. Oh. She's the one that helps the person that got shot.
Yeah,
right?
she's like, oh, that guy was a maniac. She's helping Ving Rhames.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So like, first
they're friends. Tarantino and her are friends.
Yeah, I think so. Like back in the day, Tarantino had some weird, like you would never expect them to be friends, like Julia Sweeney and all that.
Yeah.
You know, it was like it just didn't seem congruent at all. But whatever. When you talk about actors I detest, and again, like you're saying, we don't know how these people are as people. They could be the kindest, most warm heart, and it feels it'll tear me apart if I find out that these people are great and everything. But yeah, as far as your acting, you piss me off. And two actors that do this are definitely from the late 90s, Josh Hartnett and Ryan Philippe. Do not like Josh Hartnett at all. Do not like Ryan Philippe.
Is there a way that you can explain why?
It could be characters that they play, but like I think my hatred of Hartnett is justified. I think so.
You hate Philippe because he came on the scene and like a day later he was married to Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's just not fair.
Yeah, and now they have a daughter that's like 19 years old.
She's like a mini Reese. Have you ever seen her?
She looks exactly like
that
it.
old?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Jesus
Because
Christ.
Cruel Intentions was 98.
Yeah, that's true.
That's nuts.
But yeah, it could be characters they played. They always played like shitty, like horrible characters, and Philippe for sure did, and Hartnett, like I don't know, he played. Every time I see them though, it just every time it just rages. I don't know why.
No, I get you with Philippe because, and I haven't seen his recent stuff. Isn't he in that TV show version of Shooter? The Mark Wahlberg movie? Isn't Philippe the star?
He's in a television show. It's probably
he may be great now, but his early work when he was being the next It Boy, he's not good.
No,
he's not a very
go
good
back
actor.
and watch Cruel Intentions, which I loved at the time. He does not hold up.
No, the
at
tantrums he throws with Sarah Michelle Gellar.
She's fine, but
she's fine. She's
serious.
actually great. That's like the perfect kind of role for her.
Yeah.
Everybody's great. Selma Blair's great in this movie. He's the sore thumb that sticks out. And Hartnett, I always thought was a decent actor, but I get what you're saying. And he was sort of shoved at us as a dreamboat, and he's not very pretty.
I don't think he's pretty.
I don't know. I think he's fine. I think he's fine. He's a good looking dude, but like, it could be movies that he's in. It could be. I mean, it just every movie he's in, it seems like it's horrible. But okay. But I found 2 out of here. Now, first, Philippe was in Gosford Park, which I think you're still on the fence about.
I am. I need to watch it again.
I didn't like Gosford Park when I first watched it. Now I've come around on it and everything. But he plays a perfect character, and he's an American actor or whatever. And so I like him in that. And then Josh Hartnett is in Lucky Number 11, which is another fun movie to watch and everything, and I really liked it. So like I said, it could be just a situation where it's their characters that they're always playing, like and even in, I guess, Sin City, which is a movie that would be an interesting one to talk about, because I think Josh Hartnett's scenes in Sin City might be the best part of that movie.
Oh, you may have a point.
Could be, yeah.
But that movie is terrible. I don't like it. So it's a different kind of a question there. But so that's a case where I don't like the actor, but he does I like the part he's in a terrible movie.
Actor, you don't like the movie, but you like the part.
Yeah.
Mine is cheating a little bit because it's most well known as a TV show. But so Entourage, okay? For very different reasons, I don't like the 2 main leads. Adrian Grenier. Grenier or Grenier?
I've heard Grenier, I've heard Grenier,
we sat behind him on an airplane. We don't know the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll call him Adrian Grenier. So he doesn't look like he can act his way out of a paper bag.
He's not been in very many other things other than Entourage.
And it's funny because he's playing this accomplished actor, that was in this Queens Boulevard and trying to do.
Yeah.
And
it's one of those traps that I think a lot of movies and TV shows get into where they'll tell you this guy's great, but the guy playing the great actor is not great.
I know.
And so it's impossible to really translate when you watch it.
Yeah, and he's fine, and he seems like a great person.
No, he is.
He goes out he did a documentary about saving the whales or the dolphins or something like that. Right?
Sounds about right.
He did this documentary where he's trying to reconnect with his father. Seems like a good dude overall, but he's not a very good actor, especially in Entourage. And then Jeremy Piven, who is amazing in Entourage. Obviously, his role-defining character is Ari Gold. Seems like maybe questionable character, and I don't want to put too much stock into the fact that he quit a play because he got mercury poisoning from eating too much sushi. But I kind of want to put a lot of stock in it.
Yeah.
What about the story where he tipped a waitress with a DVD box set of Entourage, which I don't believe, but I want to believe.
I know there's just a lot of stories out there about Jeremy Piven, and in interviews, just not this guy. This is not my type of guy.
Yeah.
But he's amazing in this.
You're saying you're Team John Cusack.
I am Team John Cusack, yes.
Whatever the falling out they had was, it had to be Piven's fault.
Yeah, probably so. And I'm sure John Cusack has some skeletons in his closet. But yeah, I loved that show. We were talking about it the other day. The first 3 seasons of that show were just so much fun. It was great to watch. And there wasn't a whole lot of substance to it, but it was a lot of fun. And despite the fact that I did not like the two leads.
And Entourage sort of is I think Jeremy was bringing this up. Entourage is sort of the prelude to what we see in Silicon Valley. Because it's the same type of deal where they always think they're about to get something and then something else happens, that sort of they end the episode with that. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
And then the next episode, they solve that problem, but then there's another problem.
Yeah.
It's amazing that Vinny Chase even gets into any movies during that whole
seriously.
I know, man. You remember that whole arc where he and Billy were trying to make this movie, and he was like, you got to do the blowjob, Vince. And Vince, he actually had to do a blowjob. And I guess he was standing in for a Vincent Gallo type of guy.
Something like that.
And it was and he went to Billy and he was like, Billy, I'm going to do the blowjob. And Billy's like, man, I was just fucking with you, Vince.
Yeah.
I love Billy, though. It may ultimately be my favorite character in the whole show.
Oh, yeah.
You want another one?
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna go.
I actually forgot what we were doing.
All right. What is a good instance of expositional dialogue, which we sin a lot in our videos, and what is a bad instance of expositional dialogue, and how is it so?
One of my favorites that always comes up with expositional dialogue is the Jeffrey Jones scene in Hunt for Red October.
Oh.
Where he's talking about what this silent propulsion system can do with, and he's like, this could park a couple of warheads along the east coast of the United States, and no one would know anything until it was all over and everything. It's a great scene because it tells you the capabilities of the sub, and it also puts doubt into Alec Baldwin's mind, or Jack Ryan's mind, that when he thinks that Ramius is going to defect, he's got to think about all this stuff that's happening with the sub, what it was made for. He better be right. It's what's so great about that movie. But that scene is done so intense, and he's very matter of fact about it. It's not like, it could blow up the entire eastern seaboard and blah, blah, blah. He's like, this could, and he's just talking about, relating it to the Cuban Missile Crisis and all this other stuff. Just a really well done scene. There's nothing in there, I think, that you could have where Ramius is like, let me tell you about the capabilities of the spaceship. Spaceship. This submarine.
Now I want to see Ramius in space.
Yeah, I do too. He plays Captain Kirk's dad or some crap.
Oh, that's a good choice, man. I almost went with Hunt for Red October, actually, because there's that scene. I actually had it written down, and then you sent your answers in before me, and I had to change to something else because I didn't want to do the same movie, and now I'm doing it anyway. That scene where Ryan gives the debrief to the National Security Advisor and all the staff, where right before they walk in, he's like, "Who's giving the briefing?" And James Earl Jones is like, "You are." And I did Sean Connery doing James Earl Jones.
That's right.
You are.
That's right.
And so then he goes in, and it's just the way that scene is played. He's kind of still learning some of this information, even though he's the one delivering it. And because they set the scene up that way, I think you're more drawn into his experience of being awkward and the first time in this powerful room with all these people. But he ends up giving you all this really useful information for what the rest of the movie is going to be about.
Yeah.
I ended up picking Shawshank. It's probably a little too easy to pick. We praised Shawshank as a good example of narration. Because Morgan Freeman's character is the storyteller. He's the one sitting around the campfire telling you this story about Andy Dufresne. But a lot of that narration is expositional. We learn a lot about what's going on in Andy's life and the prison in general through those 30-second, 60-second little vignettes as the scene changes. Because he'll say, like, years went by, and pretty soon, sometimes the sisters got him, and sometimes they didn't. He gives you lots of pertinent information within that expositional narration.
It's like reading the book.
Yeah, it's not like an information dump. Yeah, it really is like a visual book. So that was the one I chose.
I wrote something else down, but I just thought about a different answer because I really love the scene when Jack Torrance goes to interview at the Overlook, and he's interviewing with Mr. Ullman, the hotel manager, and he has to sit down, and you can tell he's got a little bit of trepidation, but he's got to tell him about the previous family and the previous caretaker, and he does it casually at first, and then it's like. And then he slaughtered his family.
Yeah.
And you can tell with Jack Torrance, he's just locked in. He's fascinated by it. He's not repulsed. He's just like, well, you won't have to worry about anything like that with me.
Yeah.
And I just love that scene because it's so quiet. There's no outside noise. There's no score. There's nothing. It's just literally those three people sitting down, setting the mood, setting the space, and having a conversation. And I just love the way it's staged. And it gives you all the information that you need to know at the point about the hotel and like its history. It doesn't go into all the actually, I think on their walk and talk, they talk about the Native American burial grounds and stuff like that. But it gives you all that you need to know right at that point.
You know what? Now, because of that Room 237 movie, I'm always going to look at that scene and think about the guy who says, or it might be a couple of them that talk about how the office that they're in is like impossible.
Yeah.
As when you look at the structure of the building, because everybody who's really obsessed with this movie has studied this building.
Yeah.
And like it shouldn't be because there's
all
a
the
window,
blueprints out
because there's a window and there's a window in the back, and like where would there be a window in this spot that they've walked to and all of there's
I love
now
that
I
part
can't
of the
think,
movie.
yeah,
Where
exactly.
they're like building up walls and then they're doing this and they're like, no, this can't be.
And they're
here.
not saying it as a flaw in the movie. They're saying it as this is something to get you queasy or weird or whatever. Like,
they think it was intentional.
Yeah, they think it's intentional.
What is the worst instance of expositional dialogue?
Now I'm gonna blanket one because I generally, this isn't one of those like, oh, that's so bad or whatever. There's plenty of those for sure. But I hate in any movie, and I'm going to bring up Game of Thrones as an example here. When someone brings up their familial relationship with the other person in the dialogue, when they're like, "Oh no, sweet sister. Oh no, my brother. Oh no, father." Nobody talks like this. And I know that sometimes you have little amount of time and you can't really that whole arc in Game of Thrones, you would have known that they were brother and sister easily, even though he's creepy and everything.
Are you talking about the Daenerys brother?
Daenerys, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't bring that up. The Daenerys and
because there's a lot of weird brother and sister shit going on.
That's right. The Daenerys and what's the brother's name? Viserys is his name.
Viserys.
But yeah, he comes in immediately like, "Oh no, sweet sister," blah blah blah. I hate all that. I hate it every time. It sounds so unnatural. And I know that there are times where you have to you have to insert something in so that you'll know. That's an arc that I feel like didn't ever need that. I think he says that all the way through as a consistent thing.
What, like Sweet Sister?
Sweet Sister. But it happens in a lot of movies and stuff where just they say though, like, no, father, or no, you know.
Or if it's as a reveal too, like brother.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I could come up with a few like just, oh, that's horror bad, you know, exposition or whatever, but those are the ones that drive me the most nuts.
It's good stuff. I misread the question.
Ah.
That's why I was daydreaming trying to come up with an answer, because I wrote down an exposition that was text-based, not dialogue.
Oh, well.
Because that opening of Blade Runner 2049 is...
Well,
it's almost like a middle finger.
Almost any text-based thing.
Yeah.
Like, first off, I don't know if people realize this. Maybe it's because they think you're going to watch this movie over and over again or something, but anything that you write text-based at the beginning of the movie, I'm going to forget in the first 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because you don't have the context for it.
Yeah. And I don't understand why I know that you're trying to set up a thing here, but like, even when they're like, you know, it was 1385. These two countries are warring. You know, this person is the queen and or whatever. You're like, oh,
King Arthur does that. The King Arthur movie does that.
Oh, I can't deal. It really
You're talking about Blade Runner 2049,
specifically,
right?
yes. In general, I think we all agree this is a bad tactic to set up your movie. If I have to read text on a screen before I can actually enjoy what you filmed, you didn't film enough.
Yeah.
Really?
It just keeps... There's one block that comes up.
I counted them. There's like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Because in the original movie, there's like maybe 3 or 4 lines that come up. And I understand that. But then, like, it stays and then it adds one more and it adds one more. Like, God. And at the very bottom, it's like Blade Runner.
In red.
Doesn't Tropic Thunder sort of do this too, where they're like talking about all the people who wrote books out of their, like, in Tropic Thunder, they have the whole thing where it's like, this many people went to this battle and this many people wrote books about it. This many, and only 2 of the 3 were bestsellers or whatever, and something like that.
I actually like Jeremy's answer. My pick was actually for the exact same movie, because there's that point, and it's a beautiful movie. It's well done, but there's this dump where they're walking through the data halls with this guy, this bald dude that looks like Caliban from Logan, that's informing Kay about what happened during the blackout. And it's like, he says that it was before his time, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't know anything about the blackout.
Right.
He knows everything. He's a replicant. He's got all this store of information in his brain. He doesn't need to have this exposition. It's purely for us, and it stands out, you know, very
and plus,
like noticeably.
And plus, I think what makes it worse than that, and I think that you do have to have these type of scenes a lot of times, but I think we all know what the blackout means.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we need to have a whole bunch of like, oh, this is what happened during the blackout. A blackout is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
I really want to, I don't know why, I don't think this is necessary. I tend to want to stop tipping our hand in these podcasts as to what Sins videos are coming up, but I really decided just now I want to talk about Thor Ragnarok. Because I wrote a Sin about this. There's an entire expositional character. It's Carl Urban's character, and I wrote a Sin about how useless he is.
Yeah.
There's no reason for Hela to come to Asgard and need an Asgardian to be her wingman.
No, she should have somebody that's a superhero. Yeah.
Is so she can tell somebody information, and it's just a way to get exposition to the audience. That's and he has like a change of heart at the end that, oh yeah, he didn't really earn any of that, but I realized watching this the second time when we were writing Sins for it that he's useless. That character's useless.
Yeah.
There's no reason she would need him or ever do that, except they wanted to give us a lot of her comments and the things that she's talking about. And they needed somebody for her to say.
She could be talking to herself in that scene where they're walking through the hall and all the stuff comes down from the ceiling, you know?
Yeah. It's just, he's just useless. Anyway, expositional, entire character.
All right, this will be a fun one. Can you make a comparison on 2 of the greatest space movies ever, Apollo 13 versus The Martian? It's a crazy question.
Yeah.
I love it. Who uses science in more of a creative way? Which NASA crew would you want behind your back? Which space crew is better?
Well, look, the crew on the ground of Apollo 13 is the best.
Yes.
They're way better than the Martian
I think we all agree this. Yes.
Yeah. The Martian ones would soon as just let you just rot on Mars or whatever, whereas the Apollo 13 guys are like, you know, Ed Harris is like, we never lost an American in space. I'm not going to start now on my watch.
Yeah, The Martian,
You know?
I mean, Childish Gambino basically is solving a problem, and that's kind of like what gets him excited. It's not
Childish Gambino.
Donald Glover. Donald Glover is more excited about like figuring this out than it is like, oh, I'm saving Mark Watney.
I gotta say, I was a little offended by that SNL promo for this coming week's show.
Oh, yeah.
Because it put Donald Glover and Childish Gambino up like they were two separate artists.
Like Chris Gaines.
That's
and Garth
pretentious.
Brooks.
You know what? It might be Donald Glover.
I'm telling you, I'm kind of thinking.
Yeah, he's like, no, you gotta separate both of them.
I was originally offended by this question, not because one is fiction and one is reality. One really happened, and one, all those characters are made up. So it's almost hard for me to bash the NASA people in The Martian because they were written to be that way because the story is about Mark Watney's use of science. But I eventually caved and realized this is pretty fun. I think The Martian uses science as a movie better if I have to choose between that and Apollo 13.
Yeah,
That's true. Science as a concept.
Yeah.
They in Apollo 13 they have two main problems. That is the trying to get the filter for the carbon dioxide, and then to have enough power to get back home. Both of those are really awesome, like how they go through it and all the trial and error and everything. But like as far as the survival on Mars, Watney has very little to work with, and he's gotta like sit there and just think about it for a while and be like, okay, I'm gonna have to do this. I might die.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do this though. Both of them are very intriguing though. Both ways that they use science. I mean, those guys making that filter, I mean, they're making it out of nothing.
Yeah.
They've never done this before.
Yeah.
And everything. I just find all that whole like space engineering knowledge and smarts and everything, that's just something that's just so over my head that it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
It, you know, it's like I love the problem solving that they're doing in there. But yeah, I think I like The Martian.
Somebody, by the way, did come into the comments and say that the kid Jake Gyllenhaal's playing in October Sky did in fact go on. We had speculated, but he did in fact go on to work at NASA.
Oh,
really?
And we had like sort of thrown that out as speculative. I think Apollo 13 and The Martian would make an excellent double feature.
Yeah.
Sort of the early days of space and dealing with the problem, and then the future days of space and dealing with the problem. And I love them both. I think what partially set me off about the question and the first time I read it was I don't want to pit these two movies against each other. They're both A pluses in my book. So, but it is interesting to think about. I would rather have the NASA crew from Apollo 13, but I think The Martian does science better.
Yeah,
so, there you go.
I agree. All right, next one. What are your favorite, and favorite spelled with a U, which is my favorite spelling?
Yes.
Ye old favorite spelling.
What is your favorite random outbreak of singing in movies? Like Anchorman with Afternoon Delight. Afternoon Delight in Anchorman is just so out of nowhere that it's fantastic.
That's the thing. The question asker stole the best example because there's no movie where singing is more spontaneous and out of nowhere than Anchorman. And I'm sitting here going through, I found myself landing on like musicals. Oh no, that's a musical. It's supposed to be songs because it's pretty rare that somebody just busts out singing when you weren't expecting it.
What's it like being in love, Ron?
Yeah. I ended up landing on The Hangover, an Ed Helms song that starts out about Mike Tyson's tiger and ends up being about finding their friend Doug. And I just love that part where he's like, Doug. And I was not expecting that the first time I watched that movie. It probably made me laugh more than anything in that movie because you get the sense it might have been spontaneous, like not necessarily scripted, something Ed Helms just did between takes, and they were like, we got to put that in the movie. That's funny. Anyway, so that was my answer.
Yeah. In The 40-Year-Old Virgin, this is after Carell's had sex the second time.
Yeah.
The first time takes like a minute and 20 something seconds or whatever, and then like they go at it again, and this time apparently it was awesome. And so like I guess she asks, I can't remember what she asks him. But then he just goes, when the moon, and they just go into the Aquarius throughout the whole like end of the movie.
Like all the characters are there,
and they're all like out, like holding streamers and stuff, and dancing. It looks like a real like Broadway play, but out in the middle of like the countryside and everything. Really fun.
I was going to say the Van Helsing Dracula song and Forgetting Sarah Marshall, but that's not really random because she sets him up for that.
Right.
So I'm going to go with Cuban Pete.
What?
Cuban Pete.
In The Mask, Jim Carrey's The Mask.
Oh, yeah.
It's very cartoonish all the way through, right? He does all these affectations when he's in The Mask, and he's playing cartoon characters because that's his personality and everything. But it goes into full-blown, like, they've got him cornered. Like, the entire police department have him cornered. They've got The Mask and the guy that perpetrated, I think he stole some money and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, he's like, well, I guess he got me. And then he goes into the, well, my name is Cuban Pete. I'm the king of the rumba beat. When I play my maracas, I go chick, chicky, boom, chick, chicky, boom. And then everybody starts joining in at this big dance party. It's fucking great. I love it.
And Carrey does the same thing in Cable Guy with that when he's beating up Owen Wilson. He goes into a song in that.
Oh, yeah, Salt Peanut. Salt Peanut.
Yeah.
Speaking of Mask, I have mentioned on this podcast before that one of my favorite 80s cartoons to watch was Mask. Mobile
Not the Eric Stoltz
Artillery
movie.
Strike something.
Yeah.
All right.
They had toys. It was basically somewhere between G.I. Joe and Transformers. This thing existed. And you guys, if I remember right, did not remember Mask.
I did not.
No.
Yesterday news hit. We're going to get a Mask movie.
Oh, are you excited about this?
No.
All right.
No. And it's the guy that did the most recent Fast and Furious film.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, it's F. Gary Gray.
F. Gary Gray. Now, that's probably perfect. That's the studio's like, okay, so we're going to take... Because the show is about crazy vehicles and vehicular action sequences, and that's all Fast and Furious is. So now he gets to, put, I guess, superpowers and rockets into the Fast and Furious type sequence. He's probably the perfect guy to do it. I will not go see that movie because he's not going to make what I remember Mask being.
Are there any humans involved in Mask?
Yeah. Humans, they all have different, pretty ornate, like, helmets and armor and whatnot. I have the toys somewhere in a basket at home.
Oh, really?
Anyway,
Nice.
nothing new under the sun. We're going to remake even the 80s shit you don't remember.
Lovely.
Yeah.
All right, when I'm with these two friends, we will jokingly refer to each other as Bones, Spock, and Kirk. Just sort of started a while back when I jokingly called my friend Spock after she went to her biochem class. Lovely. I ended up as Kirk and the other one as Bones. It's surprisingly accurate to each of our personalities. So what iconic trios in movies would you guys recast as yourselves and why?
So even though Reservoir Dogs is a bigger cast than just a trio, I think in general it's three people: Harvey Keitel, Tim Roth, and Steve Buscemi.
They're the first ones to arrive.
They're the first ones to
warehouse,
arrive,
right?
and they're there the most of the time. Yeah, and then Michael Madsen does show up, but he shows up essentially for one scene.
Yeah.
And then same thing with Chris Penn and Tierney, and then the other guys are dead before they even get to this thing. So I do believe Reservoir Dogs is essentially a trio. So I have Jeremy as Mr. Pink because it's like Mr. Pussy. No, I'm just kidding.
Why gotta be pink?
But no, he's the guy who would have principles about tipping and shit. He would be the one that does that.
I used to have, God, I've come a long way. Before I ever waited tables, I used to have this whole tipping rant.
Oh yeah,
I never stiffed a waitress or waiter ever. I thought that was terrible. But my philosophy was that if the service is bad from the waiter, I tip bad. I tip, but I tip bad so that he knows I'm disappointed. Now, if it wasn't his fault because he had too many tables, then the natural progression is he goes to his boss and says, "I'm getting shitty tips because I have too many tables to provide good service." And they solve the problem that way.
Ah, okay.
Or he realizes, man, I really am a bad waiter and I deserve shitty tips. I should do better. And then when the service was exceptional, you go above and beyond to reward them and let them. I had this whole rant I used to do in college all the time to sort of justify being poor, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm completely on the opposite end of the spectrum now, and probably because somewhere in the middle I had a couple jobs waiting tables.
Yeah.
And I learned what it was actually like. But the first time I ever saw Reservoir Dogs, I did sort of like that rant.
Yeah.
So you're not off
He's
there.
making a good point, man. But no, I just think because Mr. Pink is probably there's no honor among thieves, but he's probably the most principled out of all of this group. You would maybe Mr. White after all this.
I guess they all kind of have their own moral compass.
Yeah.
You know? Buscemi's more interested in figuring out who the rat is and why this happened. And White is more concerned about just getting Orange, better.
Right. I have you as Mr. Orange, Barrett.
All right.
You would definitely be the guy who is undercover and is like, pretending to like us and everything. But then you would also be in that deep kind of cover where you actually start liking us and everything. And you would be like, and I'd be like, that girl's ass, and you'd be like, right over here on my dick, That's definitely a Barrett thing to say.
Thanks.
No, I'm just kidding. But and I'm going to make myself Mr. White here because I feel like of all of us in this group, I relate to Mr. White a lot because of the I'm just too old for this shit type of thing. Because I worked in movie theaters for so long, and like it was that sort of like, I'm going to be professional. I guess most of the time. And I'm going to do my job and everything, but I'm just fucking tired. And that's the way I end up on that. So.
You're going to be okay.
What, are you a doctor?
All right, so I picked the Three Amigos. Actually, this was a difficult question for me to answer because it's not easy to find film trios.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no kidding.
And
right?
when you do, one of them is almost always rock stupid.
Yeah,
that's true.
Like the first thing I thought of was Trapped in Paradise with Nicolas Cage, John Lovitz, and Dana Carvey. But Dana Carvey's character is almost an inanimate object in that movie. He's so stupid. And I didn't want to have to put that on any one of us in this room. So I went Three Amigos. Granted, they're all a little stupid, but at least we spread it around.
Yeah, they're Hollywood stupid.
I made Chris a Steve Martin amigo because he's probably the most charismatic of all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I made Barrett the Chevy Chase amigo because he's probably the more poetic, romantic, and sometimes aloof.
I get to attend El Guapo's birthday, right?
Yes, you get to be the one that says, together we raped the horses and rode off on the women. And then I'm Martin Short's amigo because I'm the goofball always making bad jokes.
I like that one.
Yeah.
By the way, my wife still falling for the mail plane joke. Just so you know.
Oh, nice.
Every time a non-commercial jet goes over, it's just like a prop plane. I go, oh, it's a mail plane. And every time, how do you know? Can't you see its little balls? And then she hits me.
I had initially thought about the Big Lebowski with Walter and the dude and Donnie. And so Jeremy as the dude and Walter is Chris and me as Donnie. So you can say, shut the fuck up, Barrett, all the time. But I think a better and more fun example would be Jaws.
Oh,
cool. So we've got the Sheriff Brody, who is Roy Scheider. That is going to be Jeremy. Just figuring things out as you go along, smart, and trying to warn people and trying to do the best thing. We're going to have me as Hooper, the Richard Dreyfuss character. Who's a big old nerd and socially awkward and kind of squeamish and all that stuff, but still like interested in the adventure. And then Chris is Quint.
I'm going to be drunk ass Robert Shaw, man.
Well, if any of the three of us was going to be Quint, it has to be Chris.
Yes, it definitely does.
And not like, I think I put instead of like, not irascible, more wizened. Because once you get Quint out on the boat, the guy just melts. Like he's so much fun to be with, and like he's sharing all these stories. He's so knowledgeable. He's just like, we're gonna do what it takes to get this done. And I love that character, man. That's such a good character.
Yeah,
I like this question too.
Yeah.
You want to do a couple more?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I like this one too. I recently spent some time in Australia. For a film class during the Sydney Film Festival. That sounds cool. We learned about Australia's history and culture from film, their film history, current film initiative for Aborigine and international filmmakers. Their host was an Australian actor. That's pretty cool. My question is, if you could do the same, spend a few months in any country being fully immersed in learning about all their film history and culture, what country would it be and why?
I saw a post on Reddit yesterday that said Australia in a nutshell, and it was a picture of a beach. And in the foreground, there were two snakes completely twisted around each other, trying to kill each other. Right behind them, there was a dingo watching them. And behind the dingo, there was a shark in the water. That's not. Well, I don't know anything about Australia, but that's pretty funny. I'm going to get mine out of the way quick because I don't have a ton to say. Hong Kong, man, The Dark Knight really did a number on me, and I would love to immerse myself. I love big city skylines. I love tall, cool buildings with interesting architecture. I love nighttime cityscapes. So just visually, I would like to take in Hong Kong, but then I know so little about the culture. I could immerse in the history of Hong Kong cinema. God, I could probably spend years over there and only scratch the surface. The food and the cuisine scene. If money wasn't an object and I had all the free time in the world and I was going to pick a place in the world to go immerse myself in, it'd be Hong Kong, baby.
The movies alone would be unbelievable because the stuff that we get is just maybe 0.5% of the shit that comes out of there, and there's got to be so much more breadth to the genres and all that stuff, and we just get mostly kung fu or action flicks, and a lot of those are pretty great.
Yeah. Imagine what a Hong Kong comedy looks like.
Yeah.
They're not gonna bring that over to the Hollywood 27.
Nope.
Maybe not.
Nope. I'm gonna go with France.
Oui.
I have led you to it.
That's right. And more, the more I see of French cinema and everything, the more I want to know it more than just about any film culture there is, because there's so many interesting things that have come out of there and everything. So yeah, I'm going to go with France on this. I think it's a huge wealth of movies and studying and everything that I would really enjoy.
You could really spend months and months and months just digging in, literally, to the film culture itself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man!
Not to mention the food.
Yeah,
the food and the women
and the women.
That's
and
right.
the horses.
That's right.
I really want to go to Sweden because I think they've got really interesting movies. Everything, just about everything I've seen from Sweden is really
fucked
complex. yeah, exactly. Complex and interesting, and the scenery, the idea of Stockholm, and like the fact that they're clean, and the fact that they're clean. It's a clean city. They've got fjords.
Yes,
I want to hang out in the fjords, but I'm going to do a sub answer because I don't have a handle on how good the cinema is besides the few that I've seen. So I want to go to India, man.
Oh,
I think there's so much to cover in India. Well,
not as clean as Sweden.
Depends on where you're at. Between Mumbai and Bengal and Delhi and all that stuff, like you could just get this rich cultural from each end of the country to the other. I mean, it's in my mind, it's very much like the U.S., where it's not as homogenized, but then you see people that are really into U.S. cinema. What does that mean? There's so much variety in U.S. cinema. So I would love to get into India and just like explore the little subgenres and, of course, the Bollywood stuff, but like, all the other stuff that's coming out of there. I have a feeling there's a lot more there than Americans typically get exposed to, similar to Hong Kong
and
stuff.
I have a feeling that Bollywood, Americans may be misapplying that word. Like, I have a feeling it may be more of a genre in India, and that not everything looks like, because you tell me Bollywood, I have a pretty clear visual image of what I'm about to expect from the handful that I've seen, and they can't all the films in India can't be that.
Right.
They're not all going to be colorful musicals. I want to see what else they're making. That's a good pick, because that's totally off the radar for me. I know jack shit about India.
Yeah.
Except that there's way more people there than there are here.
Yep. That is true.
Okay, I was wondering what actor or actress has the biggest differential between their talents and the careers that they have had. For this person, it has to be Toby Kebbell. Guy's a phenomenal presence, but his career has been middling, Kong Skull Island, at best. And sadly, he looks destined to be considered a mocap person. This is from a person in the Highlands of Scotland.
Nice.
Highlands of Scotland.
I think Angela Bassett goes under this group because I feel like she's great, but she's been relegated to sort of a character actress ever since What's Love Got to Do with It. She's sort of just been kind of they'll put her in some, like, she's she's the Secretary of State or something like that,
or Black Panther.
Yeah, or they'll do that, but it's never like, and it might be getting to the point now where she might be like too old to actually do these big lead things. But back in the day when she was of the age to be a leading actress, I feel like they really wasted her. Now, she has 92 credits. She isn't in any like need of work or anything like that. So that might be a little bit of fudging of the question, because they may be asking if they don't get to work that often. She gets to work a lot, but I feel like she should have been the lead in a lot of movies in her life too. So, and gorgeous and awesome. And how in the world did we not have her as like a main leading actress in a lot of stuff, especially in the 90s? So.
She's a force, man. Like when she turns that on, she was in a lot of those American Horror Stories, where she'll play either like a witch or she'll play somebody's what was in the last one where I don't know, she played some towering looming character, and anytime she switches that on and she's just like locked in, you can't not look at her on screen.
Yeah,
I agree.
I love her in Contact, man. Contact,
she's great. Yeah,
I mean, and she's pushed to the side in that too, but she does have a great moment, especially towards the end. But I feel like we wasted Angela Bassett as far as like.
From an acting standpoint, I'll just toss out Kevin James. I think I've talked about this before. I think Kevin James is funny, but other than Hitch, I don't think any of the movies he's made has been funny.
Anything?
I mean, I chuckled a couple times in Paul Blart because he looks funny riding that scooter.
Yeah. But you're right. Yeah, nothing.
I don't think his filmography represents his potential talent. But I've talked about that before. My real answer, I'm jumping out of actors and we're going to go to directors, and I'm going to say Sofia Coppola. I have now.
Let's not talk about her acting. Thank you.
Well, no, she's a director because of her acting. Now, this is Francis Ford's daughter. She's in Godfather 3 as an actress. She's terrible.
Yes.
She's made 5 or 6 movies at this point. The first one that I ever knew her as a director from was The Virgin Suicides, which I think is excellent. There's a Josh Hartnett movie for you.
Oh, yeah.
Forget that he's in that. James Woods, too. There's a lot of people in this movie. Really good mood, compelling story, compelling characters, and that one holds me all the way through. Every other one of her movies I've seen looks visually stunning and has a story that bores me to tears, including Beguiled, which I just saw a few weeks ago with Colin Farrell and
Nicole Kidman,
and there's 2 other famous people in this. One of the Fannings, Elle Fanning, and Kirsten Dunst, because every other movie Sofia Coppola made.
It was a remake of another Beguiled.
Was it really? Was the other one boring?
I don't know. I think it was it might have been a Clint Eastwood movie. And the guy who did it did the Dirty Harry movies too. I think.
It's basically 2 hours of sexual tension that doesn't really feel real. And then an event happens and Colin Farrell screams for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it was Don Siegel did a Clint Eastwood version back in 1971.
But it looks amazing.
Does it look nice?
I watched the whole thing because of how gorgeous it is. Same with Marie Antoinette. It looks amazing. I just don't give a shit about the characters on screen. Even the bling ring I thought looked great. And this should be a more compelling story because it's true. And I couldn't get into it at all. And so I feel like there's a talent there that we're missing out on because she's not bringing the full picture every time, and I don't know why. Maybe she had a collaborator on Virgin Suicides, screenwriter perhaps. I don't know, but she definitely has tons of talent behind the camera, and I'm waiting for her to put it all together again.
She even did that Stephen Dorff movie. I think it was called Somewhere.
Yeah,
that was just talk about boring, man. I've never been more unmoved about anything in my life, and I was watching that movie. And that one doesn't have the look or feel as the stuff like Lost in Translation and things like that. But
Lost in Translation, I always forget that one.
Yeah,
that's probably better than Virgin Suicides.
The one that has the poster in front of it.
It's right next to me.
It's looking at me right now.
For some reason, I don't think of that as a Sofia Coppola movie. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It doesn't. It's not as abstract as those other ones that come out. Even Virgin Suicides, which I like, is I don't know, it's still got some abstract to it. Lost in Translation is sort of straightforward, even though it's moves a slow pace or whatever.
You know, speaking of missing an opportunity, I feel like we've missed an opportunity with Marlee Matlin. Marlee Matlin was in Children of a Lesser God, where she won an Oscar, and that was her first role. That was her first movie role ever. And then since then, I remember her being in a Seinfeld episode, very famous, where she plays a deaf woman. Other than that, what else has Marlee Matlin been in?
She was on that show with Mark Harmon, 90s. Starts with an R. Mark Harmon and Marlee Matlin. It was some kind of legal show, I think, crime investigating show.
Well, I realized that there's probably a limitation in how much she could play, quoting, air quotes, like regular everyman role because of her ability or disability.
Her acting is good enough. You'd think that people would want to write more deaf characters.
That's what I'm saying. Why not? Why not put this as a character trait? Because it represents a significant portion of the population. Look at Shape of Water that just won Best Picture about a mute woman.
Yeah.
And that worked out really well. It's not like Sally Hawkins hasn't played other characters.
Reasonable Doubt.
Reasonable Doubt.
Yeah.
There's in Rat Race, there's a deaf character that's just kind of happens to be part of the characters. He's running around with Seth Green, I think, in that movie. It's like his brother or his friend.
Yeah.
And his deafness plays into the storyline, but I don't think it was scripted for a deaf guy. I think they hired an actor they liked who happened to be deaf. And that should happen more often for sure. And I probably believe that more today as a 50% deaf person than I did 10 years ago. But I've always liked Marlee Matlin. She's always very unique. It's interesting. I'm just now realizing how many people in my growing up years inspired me that were disabled. Because she was on my radar as a kid. When that show came out, Reasonable Doubt, I already knew who she was. But Jim Abbott just came to my mind, a baseball player who had a deformity.
I actually saw him at an Indians game. I went in person. I saw him. It was it was an interesting thing because I could barely see him switching the glove over after he threw the ball.
It was seamless, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah. It was unbelievable. I mean, I was sitting there looking like, I don't see it. I just don't see it. I finally caught him a couple of times, but most of the time, he's got, as soon as that ball is released, he's got the glove already on the hand. It's amazing.
Yeah, I maybe don't give my parents enough credit for putting good stuff in front of me that inspired me, because I'm just now realizing that, and now that as I consider myself a disabled person, and today I'm glad that I had that growing up.
Yeah, I just think there was a way to expose Marlee Matlin's talents that was definitely missed, for whatever reason, whether it was just doubts about reasonable doubts about what she could do, which she has proven wrong.
Even Seinfeld made her character all about her deafness.
They did, but they also showed her as kind of a badass, too.
They did.
Superhuman, because there's no way she could have read their lips when they were doing all that
fantastic,
stuff. But it is great. But she was like, he says, "What are you, deaf?" And she's like, "Yeah, motherfucker." Yeah. She didn't say motherfucker, but still. I just think there was more there. And, she's still alive. We could still get some good stuff out of her.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it almost certainly has to be that people just don't break out of their bubble enough to think about that. Maybe I'll write a character who's deaf because I want Marlee Matlin to be in it.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I think that's all our questions. So we got a little bit caught up on some questions.
Yeah, and we'll probably have to have an episode at some point where we catch up even more, because we do have a big backlog, and I still have a few that I haven't even sent to Barrett yet. So so there's still quite a few out there that we want to answer, but we just don't have the time for it. But that'll do it for this week. Keep going to SinCast presented by Cinemasins and giving us your thoughts on this episode. Love the comments. Love answering all you guys.
Yeah.
And keep going to Reddit, keep going to SoundCloud, keep going to a lot of places that you can find us on this. But that'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Scher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
We just ordered.
So we're like
brand new.
50-50 on working gear that we bought for the studio, right? Like half the shit we've ordered arrives broken.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm only barely exaggerating.
No, I mean, it's a whole butt computer, like, and that's the only explanation. It wasn't like, hey, did you try turning it on and off or whatever, which I did. But there was no troubleshooting. It was like, well, that's fucked.
Did you try putting it in rice or sticking it in the freezer?
Put the entire console in rice for 5 days and see what happens.
My reputation never been worse, though. You must like me for me.
There was another artist that came out recently and had a few songs about like how they've got a shitty reputation. I'm so sick of that.
I mean, I get it, but I'm sick. I mean,
nobody wants to hear that shit.
I don't know. I mean, to a certain extent, I'm sure she's playing to a segment of her audience that does want to hear that.
Do you think?
I mean, I just saw an article yesterday that was like, okay, bitches, let's stop with the Taylor Swift hate. It's gone too far at this point. Like,
how has it gone too far?
How do you not think it's gone too far?
Okay, who hates Taylor Swift?
She covered an Earth, Wind, and Fire song, and Twitter went ballistic.
That makes sense.
And that was one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in my life. So she has been taking, and I saw a great tweet that said, so Kanye puts a fake naked wax Taylor in a music video and it's art, but she covers an Earth, Wind, and Fire song and she's racist?
Oh, is that the narrative? Is that she's racist? I guess
yes, it was racially insensitive to take that song and do it in a white person hit country style. That she culturally appropriated that song. Man, that was the narrative, yes. And yes, that's proof we've gone too far. There's nothing wrong with Taylor Swift.
No, there's nothing wrong with it.
She's fine.
It's a bad cover.
She writes music, she plays the guitar, she sings, she's wholesome. Why are we picking this person? Chris Brown is still out there, people.
He is.
All right, just saying, let's get a little fucking perspective. Mm-hmm. Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. All right. Rant over.
Mm-hmm. So he did get a rant in.
Yeah.
I'm still getting caught up on Silicon Valley, and like at the end of, I guess the third or fourth season, it's where Ehrlich loses everything, and he has to get bought out by Raviga or whatever it is.
Okay, yeah.
And he comes out, and he's got that ornate like pipe thing that he's smoking on the patio.
Yeah.
Ehrlich is. And Richard comes out and he's like, if you're interested in the CTO position, you can put out a thing. And the guy's like, and Ehrlich's like, it's very late and I'm very high. It's like clouds pouring out from him. I love that show so much.
Yeah, it's great.
You want to keep that open? I kind of like the light coming in.
I'm good with it.
I don't think it affects the sound.
The only reason why we had it closed was because of the sound.
It sounds pretty good.
And it was a theory that it would bounce off better if we had that.
I'm kind of glad we had it closed when that lightning struck.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, no kidding.
Jeremy would have run out.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus.
Isn't it cool seeing the waveforms?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Chris can't see it, though.
No.
Fuck
right. Chris.
I'll hold up a mirror.
Fuck me. It's what I'm always saying.
Can you see it behind me, by the way? Like in the reflection of whatever?
No.
I don't know if I told you guys this, but when I was at Vanderbilt, I had this wonderful Indian intern that was so sweet, Shravani. And I was super busy all the time. But every once in a while, I would go back to my desk and play like a little video game, like on Miniclip or something like that, and just like take my mind off of it. And I literally sat down and wanted to spend 5 minutes just like decompressing. And so Shravani comes in, she's like, I got a question about this patient or paperwork or something like that. And I was like, you know what? Not right now. I'm really busy. And and I had the blinds closed on my window behind me, and I was doing this. I was like doing this little jumpy game or something. And she's like, "No, you are playing a video game right now." And I just looked down. I was like,
I love that she called you on it.
And you know what? That always seems to haunt you too, because like anytime someone sees you doing anything like that, they assume that's what you're always doing.
I know. I wasn't even trying to be a dick. I was just like, give me a second.
Like, it always happened with projectionists at especially Hollywood 27. you would go around and you would be like for hours straight be going around threading projectors, starting them up, all that going, and it's a big building. It's like an airport terminal. And like you go through all this, and then finally you've got that 30-minute window where you don't have to do anything, and everybody else in the building has that 30-minute window as well. And they come up and they see you reading newspapers and stuff, and they're like, "Gosh, you guys have it made up here, don't you?" Yeah, I guess we do.
Fuck you, concession manager.
That's
you
right.
don't know.
You have to work all the time.
Double cut that. You have seen that.
I've seen the scene.
I've seen the movie.
I really would love it if you cut this.